The girl stayed at the top of every exam, yet she was always cornered in the restroom and bullied. She even nearly had indecent photos taken of her. But on the day she was pushed to the brink, the class welcomed a cold new transfer student. That day, the girl finally gathered the courage to speak to the boy. "Help me get through 3 months. I am willing to do anything for you." The boy lifted a brow slightly. Anything. From then on, this new transfer student became the feared campus bully. And behind the campus bully always trailed a little shadow. No one else knew. On the surface, she was your little follower. But in truth, she was your pampered little darling. After school that day, the girl was cornered again. With a sharp slap, the girl's face instantly swelled red. "Mikai, you vixen. You dare steal top of the grade from brother Beiyuan? Trying to get his attention, are you? You still dare struggle? I'm warning you, stay away from my brother Beiyuan. Otherwise, I'll make sure you cannot even take the gaokao." The punches and kicks kept coming. Mikai's body curled up on the cold ground. The pain in her body had gone numb from dragging on so long. This was not the first time. Every time she scored a little higher than Beiyuan, she would be dragged into an alley. Mud and footprints covered her blue and white school uniform. Mikai stayed silent the whole time, like a sack. She just waited quietly for them to finish venting. Yinlan stood there sipping milk tea. Maybe she was not getting any thrill out of Mikai, because her eyes were turning vicious. "You can really take a beating." As she spoke, Yinlan's face gradually twisted. Better grades than her, prettier than her, and the girl Beiyuan mentioned most every day. Mikai's existence had taken away all the light that belonged to her. The campus bell. Her fingertips dug deep into Mikai's cheek. The searing pain forced Mikai to open her eyes. She met Yinlan's arrogant, overbearing face. "That is the face I want. What good are your grades? Once you get out into the world, you'll still be working for my family. Low-born trash like you should stay in the mud for life. Let me step all over you, trying to social climb, and marry into a wealthy elite family." They pressed the back of Mikai's head down against the ground. Mikai's hands were held down by 2 other boys. She was helpless, like she had been crushed into dust. Yinlan's dismissive words drifted down from above her head. "Strip her clothes off. Take a few pictures and spread them around. Then forget about brother Beiyuan. Even a beggar would not spare this slut another look." One boy rubbed his hands together. He moved in to tear at Mikai's uniform. Another boy pulled out his phone, ready to start taking pictures. Only then did a trace of terror surface on Mikai's numb face. "Help me. Somebody help me." No one heard the girl's helpless cries for help. The alley was deep. Even if a passerby saw, they only glanced once before hurrying past. Mikai clutched the clothes in front of her. She kicked against the ground, desperately trying to dodge those 2 disgusting hands. Then someone grabbed her hair and dragged her back. "You still dare run? Run again, and I'll kill you." Kick after kick slammed into her stomach. Mikai hunched her spine like a shrimp. Her body jerked twice. "Wouldn't it be easier to just sit still and let us take the pictures? You still want to run? Go tell the teacher, then." Yinlan lifted the corners of her mouth and smiled. She popped open the lid of the milk tea in her hand. Then she raised it and poured it over Mikai's head. "My dad donated the school buildings. Never mind the teachers. Even if you went to the principal, do you think the principal would bother with you?" She bent down. Her smile looked sweet enough. But she grabbed Mikai's hair and yanked hard backward. It felt like her scalp was being ripped off alive. Mikai was forced to lift her head. Her bloodshot eyes had no time to hide. The hatred and restraint in them. And it all showed at once. Yinlan blinked in surprise. She seemed curious that Mikai still dared to glare back. "Want to hit back? What are you going to do about it? You do not have what it takes." Yinlan let go, bored. She glanced at her expensive watch. "Enough. Class is starting soon. Brother Beiyuan is coming to explain the problems to us this period. Hurry up and finish the photos, then get back to class." Just as the boy was about to lift Mikai's shirt, a cough came from not far away, neither loud nor soft. The alley was deep and empty. That cough sounded especially abrupt. The 3 of them stopped without meaning to. They looked toward the sound. The light in the alley was too dim. They could only make out a blurry silhouette. Yinlan narrowed her eyes and sized the person up. He was in a suit. He was leaning lazily against the wall. One of Yinlan's underlings, Liu Yaoji, spoke up. "Mind your own business. This has nothing to do with you. Go play somewhere else." The boy leaning against the wall did not even glance up. He held a cigarette between his fingers and said, "I called the police." Liu Yaoji licked his teeth. "You little punk. Are you looking to die? 1 minute left. The police will be here." The boy straightened a little. He rolled his neck. He went on in an indifferent tone. Countdown. 60 seconds. The school side rang with the final bell. Liu Yaoji wanted to show off in front of Yan. He rolled up his sleeves and prepared to make a move. Yan was in a hurry to get to class. At the mention of calling the police again, she looked thoroughly annoyed. Forget it. Let her off for today. There would be plenty of chances next time anyway. It was not that she was afraid of the police. She just could not be bothered to waste time messing around here. Before leaving, she glanced at that boy. Then she looked down at Mikai coldly. You got lucky this time. But next time, it will not be so easy. With that, she took the others and headed back toward the school. Mikai braced herself against the wall and slowly stood up. She smoothed out the wrinkles in her uniform. Footsteps came toward her. Mikai fastened the buttons that had been ripped open. She had meant to say thank you, but the person walked right past her. There was not the slightest sign of stopping. It seemed he had noticed her furtive stare, as if you had sensed it. Then you suddenly looked down at her. The moment their eyes met, Mikai opened her mouth, but for some reason, no words came out. There was a cigarette between your lips. Your hands were shoved in your pockets in a lazy, roguish way. Did they beat you stupid? You cannot even say thank you. Mikai lowered her eyes. She murmured something under her breath. Before she could finish, you bent down and suddenly brought your face close with a wicked smile. Little girl, what is the use of only saying thanks? You need something real. If you do not give people a little sweetener, who will help you next time? Your face was suddenly too close to hers. She backed away again and again, uncomfortable. You suddenly braced one hand against the wall and looked down at her. Say something. You do not say anything when they are cursing you, but once they start taking pictures, you know how to cry for help. I just wanted to see how spineless you could be. Mikai's back pressed against the cold wall. She had nowhere left to retreat. When you leaned in again, she suddenly shoved you away with both hands. You stumbled from the unexpected push. The little girl took the chance and ran. You pressed your tongue against your cheek. You let out a scoff at the figure fleeing in panic. That is all the guts they have. Mikai went back to the dorm and changed into another school uniform. By the time she ran back to the classroom in a sorry state, half the period had already passed. Inside, Beiyuan had just finished explaining the last big math problem. Thunderous applause was rising. Then came a knock at the door, along with a very soft report. Beiyuan, standing by the podium, was closest to the door. He heard it first. He turned and looked toward class to his homeroom teacher. Someone is knocking outside, the homeroom teacher said with a tight frown. Mikai gently pushed open the classroom door. Everyone's gaze landed on her. The homeroom teacher immediately snapped in annoyance. Mikai, half a period has already passed. What were you doing? You are only coming back to class now. There are only 3 months left until Gaokao. Putting more of your mind into studying is the only way to change your family's fate. Why are you not taking this seriously at all? Mikai kept her head down. A lock of pale hair hung beside her face. It hid the swelling and redness on her face, but it could not hide the bruises mottling her arms. The homeroom teacher's eyes flickered. She quickly looked away. She turned a blind eye to the injuries on her body. Why are you still standing there? Get back to your seat. Mikai walked to her seat without saying a word. Beiyuan saw the injuries on her arm. In a clear, gentle voice, he asked hesitantly, Classmate Mikai, are you all right? Mikai's back stiffened. She lifted her head a little. She met Yanlan's unreadable gaze from her seat. It was as if she were saying, Go ahead and tell on me if you dare. Liu Yaoji was also staring at her from below the platform. His expression was smug, full of provocation. She quickly lowered her head and went back to her seat without a word. The classmate beside her saw there was still sweat in her hair. A few strands were stuck together. There was a sticky sweet smell. He had wanted to pull out a few tissues and help wipe her off, but Yanlan threw a pen cap at him and hit him squarely. Yanlan propped her chin on her hand and watched her. With one hand, she stabbed a sharp gel pen into the desk and played with it. Her eyes were icy and sinister. That scared her so badly she snatched her hand back at once. She did not dare hand Mikai any tissues anymore. The homeroom teacher on the platform was speaking. The last big problem was solved by only Beiyuan in the entire grade. Let's give classmate Fang another round of applause. Thunderous applause rose through the classroom again. Beiyuan stood there with polite humility. He waited until the applause died down a little before speaking. Actually, the last big problem was also solved by classmate Mikai. I looked over Mikai's paper, and her method was even simpler than mine. She only used 2 formulas. His clear gaze fell on the girl in the corner. the one with her head lowered. Below the platform, Yingying suddenly drove the tip of her pen hard into the desktop. Class 1 and Class 2 are both the school's top track classes. This time, the teacher asked me to come to Class 2 and explain my problem-solving approach. I also want to invite classmate Mikai to Class 1 to explain her method. At that, the homeroom teacher's smile stiffened. Mikai, you got the last big problem right too. She taught math for both classes, and she graded the papers as well. Of course she knew that, but Beiyuan was the Fang family's young master. Having him stand up alone and explain the problem to both classes was meant to make Beiyuan look even more impressive. Now that Beiyuan had suddenly brought up Mikai, she could only play dumb. Mikai, the teacher is talking to you. Did you also get the last big problem right? Mikai looked up at the homeroom teacher. The teacher immediately looked away. Since you got it right, why did you not say anything? You will go to Class 1 later. Before she even finished, someone suddenly knocked on the door. It was the principal. Do you need something? The homeroom teacher hurried off the platform and asked with eager politeness. The principal kept his hands behind his back and nodded, seeing that Beiyuan was there too. He said, explaining problems. Did I interrupt you? We are done already. With that, the homeroom teacher looked at Beiyuan. Classmate Feng, go back to Class 1's classroom first. We will talk about Mikai going to explain the problem after class. Beiyuan gave a slight nod. He took his math paper and came down from the platform. When he walked out of the classroom, he finally noticed the boy standing behind the principal. He was dressed in a suit. His head was slightly lowered. As they brushed past each other, Beiyuan smelled cigarette smoke on him. He frowned slightly. Not a good student. He indifferently looked away. He had no interest in anything outside of studying. Then he went back to the neighboring Class 1. The principal walked up to the class to podium. He announced something. Class 1 and Class 2 are both top-track classes, and they are also the school's key development focus. You are the guarantee of our college acceptance rate. There will now be a new transfer student joining the class. You must help one another and improve together. Let's welcome the new student. Hearing that, the homeroom teacher was a little confused too. The principal had not told her in advance that Class 2 was getting a transfer student. Ordinary students would not casually transfer schools when there were still only 3 months left until Gaokao. Unless he was no ordinary student, the homeroom teacher could not help looking at the boy the principal had brought in. You walked in with one hand in your pocket, strolling in lazily. Your face made the whole class hold its breath without realizing it. What a dangerously wild face. The girls in the class were all clutching their faces and swooning. After sneaking glances at you, they blushed and whispered something to the classmates beside them. Beiyuan's campus heartthrob spot was probably about to change hands. Even Yan Lan, who was the most obsessed with Beiyuan, seemed to miss a beat right then. But this guy looked a little familiar. Liu Yaoji, across the aisle, recognized him. He leaned over and whispered to the others. Isn't that the guy who called the police in the alley and stuck his nose where it did not belong? He is actually a transfer student in our class. He dug his own grave. He's courting death. The principal had just finished speaking on the platform when the homeroom teacher immediately echoed him. Then let us all welcome the new student. Applause broke out below. Yinlan narrowed her eyes, sizing him up. It really was that guy. He was dressed head to toe in designer brands. By rights, he should have had nothing to do with that poor wretch Mikai. Then why did he help Mikai in the alley? The homeroom teacher smiled at the transfer student. New student, introduce yourself. You lifted your eyes slightly and lazily, dismissively said two words. Lin Mo. Then nothing else. The homeroom teacher's face stiffened, just as she was about to make you say more. You lazily asked? The class had just finished changing seats, and all the good seats were already taken. Only the corner by the door in the back row was left. But this was a student the principal had personally brought in, so putting him there did not seem appropriate. The homeroom teacher looked around and fixed on an unremarkable student. Chen Qi, move to the back row. Let the new student take your seat. After saying that, she watched the principal's expression. The principal simply nodded slightly, as if he approved of the arrangement. The homeroom teacher let out a breath. Looks like I guessed right. The principal was clearly paying close attention to this transfer student. But before she knew it, Chen Qi stood up in dissatisfaction and started packing up. Your gaze swept past the girl who had been buried in her book. A hint of interest flashed through your lazy, dismissive eyes. You started walking to the back row. Why refuse to act like decent people? You all insist on buzzing around here like flies. You lazily straightened up your face full of irritation at being woken up. This guy had been slumped over asleep the whole time. Yinlan had not paid it any mind either. Now that there was some commotion, she straightened up. She looked down at him. Hey, transfer student. Still trying to play hero and rescue the damsel. Since you're new here, I will not make you answer for what happened in the alley. And while I am at it, let me remind you, Qingyuan High School belongs to the Yan family. If you want a peaceful life here, then keep your nose out of other people's business, and do not reach too far. You lean back in your chair, lifting your eyes slightly. There was no expression on your face, but the tired irritation around your eyes still showed. That instantly angered Yan Lan. She did not even need to lift a finger. Her underlings Liu Yaoji and Fan Yubin were about to teach him a lesson. A punch came swinging in. You did not move. Your raised palm closed around the man's fist. With a light twist, there was a creak, and his wrist was turned 90 degrees. Then Liu Yaoji's howl of pain rang out. Fan Yubin tried to sneak attack from behind, but the guy seemed to have eyes in the back of his head. He seized Liu Yaoji's wrist and flung him into Fan Yubin. Fan Yubin shoved him away and rushed in again. You suddenly stood up. Your arm came up in front of Mikai. Mikai stiffened. She watched him pick a gel pen off the desk. Before she could even react, a howl of pain came from the back row. Linmo's other hand clamped around Fan Yubin's throat. With a bang, he slammed him onto the desk. The gel pen in his other hand dropped straight down over his eye. Fan Yubin screamed in terror. His face went white as paper. Yen Lan was scared too. Still shaken, she stumbled back several steps. Her back hit a desk. When the gel pen stopped just less than an inch from Fan Yubin's eyeball, Mikai cried out in fear. Linmo, you followed that thin, pale hand upward, and glanced at her. There were faint red veins in your eyes. A thin layer of cruelty and menace rose quietly to the surface. Mikai's voice was soft and thin. Fighting at school will get you expelled. Then you won't be able to take the Gaokao. That is the best way for people like them to get out of here. You really hated that soft, wishy-washy kind of personality. Worried about this, thinking about that, and in the end becoming someone else's punching bag. Then even going around telling other people to endure it and take it, though he had not actually planned to stab down for real in the first place. What the hell does that have to do with you? Take your hand off it. Mikai did not dare let go. She even reached out with her other hand and grabbed his wrist too. You let go first, then I will take it away. You stared at her silently for a while. Have you studied yourself, stupid? They are bullying you. I am helping you, and you're still trying to bargain with me. Even so, he loosened his grip on Fan Yubin's throat. Fan Yubin swallowed hard. He quickly seized the chance to escape from under the pen. None of them had expected Linmo to be such a fighter. Liu Yaoji clutched his wrist and muttered in her ear. I asked my dad during the break just now. He said the principal arranged for this guy to come in. His family has serious backing. Anyway, he is planning to go abroad. Once the paperwork is done, he will stay at this school for a while and then leave. Let's just put up with it this once. The homeroom teacher was the woman Liu Yaoji's father kept on the side. In order to marry his father, she had gone to a lot of trouble to please him. She would answer anything he asked. Yen Lan was still shaken too. She looked at Linmo unwillingly. Linmo, right? You are good. Mikai really is a vixen. She can latch onto anyone. Yen Lan had no intention of causing extra trouble. Before leaving, she bent down and warned Mikai in a low voice. You got lucky this time. I will wait for you in the alley after school tonight. You had better show up nicely. She straightened up. Her pretty lips formed to words. Just wait. A chill crept up from Mikai's feet. Mikai gave a sudden shiver. Yen Lan let out a cold laugh. Then she walked away with a meaningful look. The cicadas were still chirping outside the window. Mikai's fingertips dug deep into her palm. It took her a long time to calm the panic in her heart. When she turned around to thank you, there was already no one behind her. She let out a soft breath. She bent down and picked up the paper from the floor. It was covered in dust. She wiped it clean with a tissue and laid it neatly back on Linmo's desk. She went to the office to get the English papers and bring them back to hand out. The students who had gone to lunch had all come back. Not until the bell rang for class. Were the seats in the back row still empty? The first English class ended. You still had not come back. Mikai was the English class representative. After collecting yesterday's English homework, she took it to the office. In the hallway, she saw the boy basking in the sunlight. You were leaning back against the railing. Your lean, pale arms resting lazily on it. You tilted slightly backward. Sunlight fell across the boy's unruly face. Maybe you noticed her gaze. You lifted your eyes a little. Then you lowered your gaze and looked over. Mikai had already looked away. She lowered her head and walked toward the office. When she came out of the office, she saw the homeroom teacher standing in front of you. She looked kind and approachable. Why weren't you in the classroom during lunch break and English class? You twisted open the bottle of mineral water in your hand, tilted your head back, and took a sip. You ignored her. The homeroom teacher did not get angry either. She even said it in a gentle voice. I heard from the principal that you do not live in the dorms. You live alone in an apartment off campus. Then you need to be careful. Evening self-study ends at 9:30 for us. If anything comes up, call the teacher anytime. If you change your mind and want to board, the school can apply for a room for you alone, so you do not have to share. You gave a perfunctory response. Your gaze happened to fall on the girl walking slowly a few meters away. She looked sneaky. After the homeroom teacher left, Mikai walked a little faster. When she reached the back door, a long leg blocked her way. What are you eavesdropping on? Mikai looked up. Her gaze flickered. I did not mean to overhear it. You lowered your long leg. You looked her over twice. Then you sat back down and took the books out of your backpack. Mikai let out a soft breath. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw you scribbling something in the book. When you looked up, she immediately pulled her eyes back and returned to her seat. The afternoon classes were dull and tedious. It went on until evening self-study. Other than going to the restroom, Mikai kept her head down and worked on the papers. As evening self-study was about to end, her phone vibrated. Mikai lowered her head to look at the screen. The message on it made her eyes fluster. She looked up. Yinlan lifted her chin. She waved her phone at her. The text said, The little alley. I'm waiting for you there. Mikai hastily lowered her head. She shoved the phone back into the drawer. Her arm accidentally knocked the eraser to the floor. She had also crumpled the paper in her hand. After Yanlan left, she bent down to pick up the eraser. Then she saw the gel pen beside the chair. It was Linmo's. Mikai picked up the eraser and the gel pen. She was about to return them to him. She put the gel pen in her own pocket. Evening self-study ended. It was already 9:30. People quickly stood up and left, either heading back to the dorms, and the classroom was in quite a commotion. You, who had been sleeping face down in the back row, pulled on your jacket loosely, stuffed the books into your backpack, and got up to leave. Seeing that, Mikai immediately followed after you. At first, you did not notice. After leaving school, you lit a cigarette and held it at the corner of your mouth at an angle. Sensing something, you turned slightly. Only then did you notice the little shadow behind you. You glanced back at her. She immediately lowered her head and looked at her toes. You half squinted and exhaled a ring of smoke, both hands in your pockets. You kept walking. The little shadow followed you again. You took one step, and she moved once. You licked the inside of your cheek. Then you leaned your back against a tree. Your slender fingers, holding the cigarette, curled at her. Mikai pressed her lips together. She took little steps until she was standing before you. You studied the girl in front of you. What is this supposed to mean? Mikai pulled the gel pen out of her pocket and handed it to you. You raised a slight eyebrow. You took the pen back. After only 2 steps, the girl blocked your path. You frowned around the cigarette butt between your lips. What now? The girl in front of you looked up. She could not hide her fear. Her blue eyes fixed on you. Still, she held your gaze stubbornly. Very few people with Gaokao so close could still transfer into Qingyuan High School's top track class. You were brought in by the principal. The homeroom teacher and Yanlan's group are all afraid of you. You yawned. So what? Mikai seemed to gather every ounce of courage she had. Can you help me? Your eyes did not linger on her. Why should I help you? Mikai clutched her clothes tightly. I thought about going to the homeroom teacher and reporting Yanlan before. When I reached the door, I overheard the homeroom teacher talking about being related to Liu Yaoji. And Yanlan is the principal's goddaughter. I even thought about calling the police. The ridiculous part is, every time I called the police, there was never any follow-up. Only later did I find out that Fan Yuban's father is. Mikai gave a bitter smile. I cannot afford to offend any of the 3 of them. And Gaokao is almost here. Even if I call the police and make a big scene, they may not even be punished. I would not gain anything either. Just like that girl who rolled down the stairs. In the end, nothing came of it. It had no effect on Yanlan at all. Hearing that, you did not even lift your eyes. Then you are pretty pitiful. I have no other way. Mikai looked at you with timid eyes. The homeroom teacher respects you a lot. Yanlan and her underlings are afraid of you too. I know this will sound ridiculous to you, but can you please help me? Mikai saw the corner of your mouth twitch against the glow of the streetlight. That smile looked glib and cocky. You crushed the cigarette, but flat. You gave her a slow look. You think this is funny? And you are still yapping about all this useless nonsense. Do I have charity written on my forehead? You make me sound like I am running a charity. Seeing you about to leave, Mikai hurried after you. She blocked your way. It seemed she had made up her mind. She spoke with difficulty, as if her throat were full of broken glass. As long as I can get through these 3 months until Gaokao, I will do anything you want during those 3 months. Your expression was indifferent. You did not even look at her once. You said lazily as you walked, I do not need you to do anything. The only thing you can do is stay away from me. Seeing her stick to you like a clingy pest, you got annoyed. You flagged down a taxi and left without looking back. The summer rain came without warning. Dark clouds pressed low overhead. Thunder rolled along with it. A lot of people hurried past her with their bags over their heads. Mikai staggered when someone bumped her shoulder. The rain kept getting heavier. Her blue and white uniform shirt was almost soaked through. Just then, the old phone in her pocket started vibrating. She had bought the phone secondhand for 200 yuan just to make it easier to contact the boss. At her part-time job, she had bought it at a secondhand shop for 200 yuan. Seeing the caller ID, she suddenly shivered. It was Yan Lan. Mikai hurriedly stuffed the phone back into her pocket. First she ran over toward the milk tea shop to ask her part-time boss for time off. Seeing the men and women by the roadside, she looked once more toward where you had gone. It seemed she had made some kind of decision. She held the bag full of books tight against her chest. Then she lowered her head and faced the rain, running in the direction you had left. You had just come out of the bathroom, while drying your hair, and walked toward the living room while looking down at the messages on your phone. When you heard a light knock at the door outside, you glanced at the time on your phone. It was already 10 o'clock. You tossed the towel onto the sofa. You walked to the entryway and opened the door. Outside, you saw the girl, soaked through and looking like a drowned mess. You froze for a second. Then you clicked your tongue in annoyance. You actually found this place. Are you done yet? Mikai held the cloth bundle in her arms. She stood perfectly still and looked up at you, so close she could almost touch you. The tips of Mikai's ears went warm. She averted her eyes shyly. Then she took a small step back. I wanted to ask whether you have thought it over. You did not answer her. You straightened up lazily. How did you know I live here? When I was delivering homework, I saw your transfer papers. So I remembered. You just won't leave me alone. Your patience had run out. You were about to close the door. Mikai suddenly pressed her hand against the doorframe. She tilted her head back and looked up at you as hard as she could, and ran straight into your deep, dark eyes. I can do something for you, she said quickly, her voice trembling slightly, awkward and strained. I'll turn 18 on the 15th next month. You gave her a sit-along glance. So, a lot of boys in class, behind everyone's back, secretly talk about girls' bodies. If they find out which girl is on her period, they make a scene on purpose. Mikai had heard other girls mention this before. Her lips tightened. Once I'm 18, I can take care of your physical needs. I can also. Before she could finish, you curled your lip with open contempt. No wonder you're top of the grade. So young. And you pick things up fast. You've even managed to turn selling yourself into a full-blown routine. Your gaze settled on the pitiful little thing in front of you. Even though you were smiling, your voice was ice cold. But you picked the wrong buyer. I hate spineless people like you the most. Mikai felt a wave of humiliation at your mockery. But thinking of the fact that she could not take the Gaokao, she forced herself to meet his eyes with all the courage she had. Even if you look down on me, you only need to help me for 3 months. I'll do anything. Once Gaokao is over, I will never bother you again. For you, there is no loss, is there? You spoke in a slow, drawling tone. No offense, but you are nothing special to look at. You do have a nice imagination. How would I not lose out? Am I supposed to give you something for nothing? If you say she was not spineless, she would not even fight back when people bullied her. But if you said she was spineless, then she was even bold enough to make plans for herself. With that, snap, he shut the door coldly. If her hand had not been stuck in the crack, it would have smashed her face flat. You thought the door was shut, but somehow it sprang back open. You turned and looked back. Mikai's fingers were wedged in the crack. The door had pinched them so badly that all 5 fingers were trembling. They were already turning red and swelling up fast. Your brows snapped together at once. You cursed under your breath, stupid. Then his voice turned even colder. Do you not want your hand anymore? feeling the danger rolling off his eyes. Mikai still kept her hand pressed to the doorframe. She answered in a tiny voice. I can still mop the floors. Any dirty work, any hard labor. Cleaners in Liangsheng make 80 yuan an hour. Hourly housekeepers make 50 yuan an hour. Even cleaning workers make at least 15 yuan an hour. I do not want your money. I just need you to help me get through these 3 months. You would not be losing anything. Hearing that, you gave her a cold, dismissive look. Mikai heard a soft scoff above her head. Then you ignored her. You turned and went into the room. You crouched in front of a cabinet, rummaging through something. You made a lot of noise doing it. You picked up the first aid kit and walked over to the coffee table, using the first aid kit to push the clutter aside. Then you sat on the sofa with your legs spread. Seeing her standing motionless at the door, you rolled your neck a little. You said impatiently, you really don't want it. Mikai looked inside in confusion. She did not really understand what you meant. You lifted your chin. Your fingers tapped the first aid kit, neither hard nor soft. How did you even manage to get top of the grade? I mean that hand of yours. Let's see how you plan to take Gaokao with it like that. Maybe she had misunderstood you. Mikai raised a finger and pointed at herself. Do you mean for me to come in? You curled the corner of your mouth. Or do you want me to go out? Now, it was clear you meant for her to come in. Mikai stood at the door and looked inside. The apartment was very, very big. The interior finish looked excellent. Even the floors were made of fine wood. It was as beautiful as anything on television. Mikai looked down at her shoes. She had been wearing them for years. She took a tiny step back, afraid of dirtying the floor. You looked at her movement with unreadable eyes. Still playing hard to get with me. Mikai shook her head, her face bright red. I am not. She scratched the center of her brow with her fingertips. You laughed? Then what are you waiting for? Do I need to roll out a red carpet and set off fireworks to invite you in? Mikai tightened her grip on the backpack straps. That's not what I meant. So she bent down and took off her shoes. Her feet were in white cotton socks. It was the first time she had stepped on a wooden floor. It felt softer than the concrete floor at home. The soles of her feet felt warm. You leaned carelessly against the sofa. Your chin lifted slightly. Your gaze settled on her. Mikai stood about 2 meters away from you. Her hands hovered awkwardly, not knowing where to put them. You opened the first aid kit and took out some anti-swelling ointment. Seeing her standing there motionless and timid made you impatient. Why are you standing so far away? Are you waiting for me to kneel in front of you and put it on for you? Mikai hurried to explain. I'm wet all over. I was afraid of dirtying such a nice sofa. Why do you have so much to say? Get over here. Your hand is swollen like a club. Let's see how you're supposed to take Gaokao like that. Why is he so bad-tempered? But even so, it was still much better than Yan Lan and the others. Mikai's eyes were ringed with a faint red. She moved a little closer to you. The light outside had been dim just now, and you had not looked at her closely. Now, when you glanced up carelessly, you realized she was nearly soaked through. The two of you looked at each other under the light for a moment. Your fingers rested near your mouth. Your Adam's apple rolled slowly along your throat. Your gaze swept over her without restraint. At that moment, Mikai only felt that she was like prey locked in a hunter's sights. She clenched the fingers hanging in front of her. She grew more and more awkward and nervous, yet she still held her slender neck stiffly upright, forcing herself to meet your eyes. The two of you seemed to be testing each other, or perhaps sizing each other up. More than 10 seconds later, you casually looked away again. You tapped the seat beside you on the sofa, signaling for her to sit down. Mikai sat a little way in front of the sofa. She watched you twist open the ointment. She wanted to say she could apply it herself, but you spoke first. Hold it out. Use a little common sense, will you? She swallowed the words back down. Mikai lifted her hand. Her swollen fingers had taken on an unnatural red. Afraid she would fidget while you applied the ointment, you caught her wrist with your other hand. The slightly cool temperature of your palm kept seeping into her skin. Her body went rigid, and she tried to control the faint tremble in her fingertips. You glanced at her. What are you shaking for? Does it hurt that badly? Looking at your solid build, with the two of you standing so close, she kept her head down, not daring to look around. But when the ointment went on, it felt like she had been singed by fire. She could not help sucking in a sharp breath. Your hand paused. Mikai answered softly. It's okay. It just hurts a little. You let out a laugh in exasperation. So is it okay? Or does it hurt a little? Were you a master of hedging in your past life? Do you even know whether it hurts or not? Mikai shrank her neck a little at the scolding. It really does not hurt much. If it hurts more, do not make a sound. Endure it. Your fingers were coated with milky white ointment. Your eyes stayed lowered, and you kept applying it to the red, swollen area. Your touch had only grown gentler, with a hand that thin, with barely any flesh on it. How did you dare use it to block the door? Do you know that door could pinch your fingers off? Mikai watched you apply the ointment in silence and said softly, I did not think that much at the time. I was afraid that after you closed the door, I would not get another chance. You kept applying the ointment lazily, not even lifting your eyelids. Then you guessed wrong. Whether the first closed the door or not, you would not have had a chance. Letting you in was purely because I have a good character. Hearing that, the little head beside you drooped. She tried to pull her hand back, but you caught her hand before she could withdraw it. I have not finished yet. Why are you fidgeting? Aren't you not helping me anymore? Then why are you still putting the ointment on? You curled your lip at that. I already said it. It is simply because I have a good character. You let go of her hand. You stood up and tossed the ointment onto her. The ointment is on now. My responsibility is done too. Once you step out that door, whatever happens to you has nothing to do with me. Just remember to shut the door behind you before you go. After washing the leftover ointment off your hands, you went into the study. The door slammed shut with a bang, cutting her off from you. Mikai hung her head. She looked at her hand covered in ointment, then at the tightly closed study door. The air conditioning was blasting cold air inside, seeping hard into every pore. You still would not help her. Then what was she supposed to do? Yin Lan would not let her off. In the study, you switched on the desk lamp and bent your head over a stack of overseas paperwork. Hearing the occasional rustling from outside, your pen froze. What was this girl doing in your apartment? She was acting like a thief. But with that kind of courage, what could she even do? Her fingers were swollen like radishes, and she still had not made a sound. It made you think of a puppy you had once raised. It looked like the sort of thing anyone could bully. It did not even know how to bare its teeth. What you hated most were these cotton-soft cowards. After finishing the paperwork, you lounged back in the recliner, bored. You propped your feet up on the desk and read for a while. An hour later, you finally walked out of the study. The scene in front of you made you pause. Under the lights, the floor looked like a mirror, so clean it was spotless. The messy magazines and papers on the coffee table had been lined up like they were in the army, neatly arranged on the tabletop by date, and Mikai was coming out of the bathroom carrying a bucket of water. The cold white light traced a soft glow over the fine sweat on her forehead. Your gaze stayed on the bucket she was carrying, a bucket that full was no light load, and with those cleaning tools too. You had no idea how her slim body had managed to carry it all up. You frowned and strode over to her. Your hand shot out from your pocket and took the bucket away from her. You finish applying ointment and then go hauling buckets? What is going through your head? If you do not want that hand anymore, go have it cut off at the hospital. What is this? Some fake injury scam? Mikai hurriedly waved her hands. My hand can do things like this, and I would never cling to you. She just wanted to prove she could work. Your eyes narrowed slightly. Offering yourself or showing off won't do a thing. I already said it. I have no interest in some little girl who is still wet behind the ears. Now get out of here. She lifted her pale hand, hesitated for a moment, then let her hand fall to the top button of her shirt. She undid them one by one. You said nothing, but you could clearly feel her body trembling faintly. Then you looked at her face. Shame burst across her young, innocent face. It went red like a cooked crab. So red it looked like it was about to start steaming. Even so, she still did not stop. She kept pinching the hem of her shirt and lifting it up. You stared at the girl in front of you without blinking. Your breathing went a little uneven. The black strands of hair falling across your forehead hid the quiet stir of desire in your eyes. You forced yourself to look away. You quickly grabbed a jacket from the sofa and tossed it over her. With what little you have, you still have the nerve to let people take a look. A faint, distinctive scent from your clothes washed over her. Mikai looked up, red-faced. Maybe it was just her imagination, but the tips of your ears, turned away from her, seemed a little red. You lowered your head without showing anything on your face, and let out a quiet breath. Hurry up and put your clothes on. You make it sound like I'm forcing you into this. Your voice carried a touch of impatience. Mikai knew she was being disliked. She silently put her school uniform back on, only when the rustling of clothes behind her stopped. Did you turn around? You did not even look at her. You bent down, and with a large hand faintly marked by veins, you carried the bucket back into the bathroom. Mikai's eyelashes trembled. A slightly unnatural flush stayed on her cheeks. It was her first time doing something like this, and for a moment she did not know what to say after being rejected. So she thought it over and stood outside the bathroom. She kept tightening her grip on the hem of her clothes, as if that would give her courage. I heard papaya is supposed to help you fill out. I am still young. If I start eating it now, I should fill out faster. There was no reply from inside. Mikai moved her lips. Besides that, I am also very efficient at work. If there is anything in the room you are not satisfied with, you can tell me. Next time I can do better. There was still no sound from inside. Mikai shifted her feet and glanced in hesitantly. She saw you bracing one hand on the marble sink. Your back was slightly hunched, and your other hand was pressed to your stomach. Are you all right? Mikai could tell something was off about you. None of your business. I told you to leave. Why are you still here? You are so damn naggy. That has always been your way of talking. It is only for one day. Mikai was already used to it. She stepped up to you. Then she cautiously reached out to support your arm. Did you strain your back when you carried the water? Let me help you to the living room to rest for a bit, okay? The moment you heard that, you nearly laughed in irritation. It is not just my stomach that hurts. My heart hurts too. Are you blind? I am holding my stomach. Which eye of yours saw me strain my back? A single bucket of water is enough to strain my back. Do you think I'm as fragile as you? Mikai sniffed. She said, a little hurt. I guessed wrong. She apologized fast. It left you no room to keep being angry. You looked down at the girl's fingers resting on your arm. The swollen hand looked like a club. The other hand was slender and pale. You did not dare look up at her either. She kept her head down quietly. Her lashes trembled again and again. She looked impossibly easy to push around. I will give you a chance to prove yourself. Help me over there. You reluctantly gave in. Your voice was cold, hard, and awkward. Mikai let out a small breath of relief. She skillfully hooked one of your arms over her shoulder. Her other soft hand moved to support your waist. A warm, soft touch pressed against you, but it felt almost too hot. A faint tingle spread through you. You could not tell if it was her warmth or yours. Your back stiffened, and your throat bobbed. You glanced at the position the two of you were in. She was clearly treating you like an invalid. Are you trying to cop a feel? Quit groping my waist. Mikai immediately pulled her hand back from your waist. She stammered an explanation. Sorry, my grandmother cannot stand. I have always helped her like this, so I did it without thinking. Her withdrawn hand seemed to have nowhere to go. It almost made you laugh. Even if she had wicked thoughts, she would not have the guts. At her height, she was barely cane-sized. If you eased up even a little, you could flatten her. Helping or not hardly made any difference. In the end, you walked out of the bathroom on your own. You rummaged through the first aid kit on the coffee table and found a box of medicine. You opened it and popped the pills into your mouth. Then you saw Mikai holding out a cup of water she had poured for you. You tilted your head lazily to look at her and took the cup. You swallowed the stomach medicine. After Mikai saw you take the medicine, she ran to the door and put on her shoes. Then she left. You threw yourself onto the sofa. One leg went up onto the couch, and the other lounged across the coffee table. You draped the back of your hand over your eyes to block the harsh light. Without that timid, stammering voice, the place suddenly felt much quieter. The sound of rain outside, the ticking of the second hand on the living room clock, and the drip of a tap not fully closed in the bathroom. You closed your eyes, but her pouting face kept flashing through your mind. That stubborn look on her blushing face. The more you thought about it, the more irritated you got. You lowered your hand from your eyes and stared at the ceiling, lost in thought. When you casually turned your head, you spotted the yellowed cloth bag left by the side of the coffee table. It was hers. This girl was not only lustful, she was also always leaving things behind. And she was supposed to face the Gaokao with a brain like that. You slowly looked away. You let out a cool snort. The medicine kicked in. The pain in your stomach was not as obvious anymore. Just as you were about to drift off on the sofa, there was another knock at the door. You opened your eyes with a flare of irritation. It was the kind of annoyance that comes with sleepiness. You kicked the coffee table. Then you got up to answer the door. A breathless girl was standing outside. Her cheeks were flushed, and her dark eyes were fixed on you. She carried the damp smell of rain on her. She had made herself a mess again. After a few seconds of blank surprise, you finally noticed the vegetables hanging from her hand. Did you get a stomachache because you did not eat dinner? I went to the fresh market and bought some vegetables. Luckily, a few stalls were still open. As she spoke, Mikai bent down and took off her shoes. Then she carried the vegetables inside. You instinctively stepped aside to let her pass. You stood there, dazed for a moment. Then you came to your senses and closed the door. You watched her carry the vegetables into the kitchen. Mikai skillfully took the vegetables out of the shopping bag. A small carp, a few small bok choy and tomatoes, and several eggs. The apartment kitchen had a full set of gas, pots, pans, and tableware. Some of it looked like the seals had not even been broken. She put the fish in a basin to soak. The shop had already gutted it. It looked dead already, but its tail was still thrashing violently. That was only muscle and nerve activity, even after its insides had been cleaned out. Every living cell in the fish was still working as hard as it could, trying to save its own body. Watching the fish struggle like that, Mikai seemed to see herself in it for a second. She shook her head, swallowing back the sting in her eyes. She shoved the messy thoughts to the back of her mind. Just as she was about to put her hand in the water to wash the vegetables, an irritated reminder came from behind her. Do you really want to ruin that hand? Mikai turned around. You were standing with your arms crossed, leaning lazily against the wall. If that hand of yours gets wet, and you can still pick up a pen tomorrow, then I will take your last name. Mikai looked down at her hand. It was indeed a little swollen, but not that serious. It is fine. I used to hurt my hand at home too. It would be better in a few days. I could still sweep and cook during that time. Before her hand even went into the water, it was stopped by a hand with sharp, defined knuckles. That pressed her wrist and held it in midair. Are you trying to ruin that hand? And then latch onto me? You pulled her away from the stove. The girls you know are all pampered to death. If they scrape even a little skin, they start crying. She was like she was made of steel. She did not treat herself like a girl at all. Mikai stood there at a loss. I am really fine. That is how I did it back home too. Not just washing dishes and cooking. I also had to feed the pigs and sheep. There was never time to rest and heal. If my hand really cannot hold a pen anymore, it would not be your fault. I would never trouble you. You standing here is already trouble enough for me. You frown without thinking. If you are injured, you need to rest. Even elementary school kids know that. You are grown enough to know better without being taught. Get over there. You stood by the stove, and lazily pulled one hand out of your pocket. You picked up the fish. There was a little disgust in your face. Tell me how to do it. But looking at you now, you clearly do not know how to cook. Mikai thought for a moment. Then she asked cautiously, then help me wash the vegetables, and I will do the cooking. Would that be okay? You gave a grunt of agreement. You are just making trouble for me. Mikai quietly guided you from the side. You had never done this kind of thing before. Back in the imperial capital, there were cooks, nanny housekeepers, and housekeepers. You lived like everything was handed to you. Even after coming to Liangsheng, you still ate out for every meal. These hands that had never lifted a finger for housework could fight just fine, but they were useless at washing vegetables. You fumbled around and got yourself soaked. You were irritated to death. Your brow was faintly furrowed, but you could not bring yourself to throw in the towel. You did not want to let her laugh at you for no reason. A job that should have taken only a few minutes ended up taking 15 minutes to finish washing the vegetables. Several times in between, Mikai wanted to say she could do it herself, but the words at her lips died under your fierce glare, so she swallowed them back. Is it okay now? You tossed the washed vegetables onto the table. Mikai looked at the bok choy you had broken apart while washing it, then at the wet patch on your black t-shirt, which had turned much darker. It clung to your body, faintly showing the lines underneath. She looked away and said softly, "That works." You lifted a brow slightly, then shifted aside, giving her room. Mikai stood by the stove and turned on the gas and the range hood. Once the oil in the pan was hot, she tilted her head and asked you before adding the scallions and ginger, "Do you avoid any foods?" You said no. Only then did she add them. The oil immediately sputtered out. You reflexively raised a hand like you were facing a major threat. Out of the corner of your eye, you saw Mikai standing there without changing expression. You coughed twice, then lowered your awkward hand and shoved it into your pocket. So you really can cook. You leaned casually against the edge of the island counter and asked. Mikai gave a soft hum of agreement. If I do not eat dinner at night, I get a stomachache easily. I did not know what you like to eat, so I just bought whatever I saw. At least it will fill your stomach a little. Then your stomach will not hurt. At the Japanese restaurant you had been to before, the chef would cook in front of the guest, plate everything beautifully, and bring it to your table. You glanced sideways at her. Her long white hair had been casually tied back with a rubber band. Thick bangs hung over her eyes, with a few loose strands falling against her fair cheeks. There was none of that flashy showmanship, and nothing especially delicate about it, but her movements were quick and practiced. In no time, the dishes and a soup were done. Mikai carried the dishes to the dining table. She scooped a bowl of rice for you. You looked down at the tomato and egg stir-fry, and your gaze flickered, seeing that you were still standing there. Mikai went over and pulled out a stool, looking at you with hopeful eyes. You lifted a brow, then sat down in the chair. She immediately held out the bowl of fish soup to you, and with that school uniform, it made you think of when you were in the imperial capital, when a friend had dragged you to that maid-themed cafe. The difference was, those girls, even in high school uniforms, had a seductive, flirty look in their eyes, whereas Mikai was all innocence and naivete. Back in that restaurant, you had not felt a thing, and left almost immediately. But now, damn it, you were actually enjoying this a little, seeing that you still had not taken it after a long time, and were just staring at her. Mikai got a little flustered. She did not know what she had done wrong. You pressed your tongue against your cheek, your last syllable lifting. Trying to feed me? Mikai pressed her lips together. Have a bowl of fish soup first and settle your stomach. I only put salt in the fish soup. It is very light. You took the fish soup. Since you are being so attentive, I'll humor you and try it. When you reached for the spoon she handed over, your lips accidentally brushed the back of her hand. Mikai's hand jerked. She quickly pulled it back and clenched it behind her back. I did not mean to. The spoon still held the warmth of her hand. You held the spoon and unconsciously pressed your lips together. Then you turned and looked at her. Not like you were trying to take advantage of me. That sly grin had the usual roguish edge to it, which left Mikai fidgeting uneasily. I did not mean to. If you were doing it on purpose, that would be a different story. You took a sip of the fish soup. When she stewed the fish, she had mashed the flesh apart, so the fish and the broth blended together. You did not know what trick she used to get rid of the fishiness, but one sip left only pure flavor. Your appetite had been poor all year, and lately everything you ate turned your stomach. You threw up no matter what you ate, and because you ate irregularly, you were left with occasional stomach pain. In just that short time, you'd somehow finished the whole bowl. Then you picked up your chopsticks and reached for the green pepper pork stir-fry. It tasted homely, with a real feeling of everyday life. The food and hot broth spread warmth through your stomach. Mikai unconsciously held her breath, watching every flicker of your expression with great care. You had drunk the fish soup, eaten the green pepper pork, and still had not touched the tomato and egg stir-fry. Mikai thought you must not like it, so she asked carefully, "How is it? Does it suit your taste?" You leaned back in the chair. "It tastes pretty good." Only then did Mikai finally relax. Even if you do not like tomato and egg stir-fry, it was still good that you could eat the other two dishes. You should sit too. You bent your fingers and tapped the table twice. You nodded toward the seat across from you. Don't make it sound like I'm snubbing the English class rep. I need to get back to the dorm. Mikai went over and picked up the backpack from the floor, slung it diagonally over her shoulder. It is already late to go back now. If I am any later, the dorm Annie will not open the door for me. You watched her bend down by the doorway to put on her shoes, lifted a brow, and still did not try to keep her there. Only when she straightened up, did you suddenly ask, "What was your name again?" She answered softly, "Mikai. My name is Mikai." You rolled those two words around on your tongue, seeing that she was leaving. You idly spun the spoon between your fingers and said again, "Wait a second." You jerked your chin toward the first aid kit. "Take the medicine with you." Mikai looked down at the shoes she had just put on, then had no choice but to take them off again, and quietly walked back inside. Then she heard you say in an even tone, "There is an umbrella behind the door." Mikai looked at him. You had your back to her as you drank the fish soup. You were not looking. She whispered thanks, put her shoes back on, and gently pulled the door shut. The apartment fell quiet again. Steam rose from the hot food under the light, curling gently upward. You picked up your chopsticks and ate the tomato and egg stir-fry one bite at a time. You blinked lightly. The restlessness you had felt when you first came to Liangsheng somehow settled down just like that. Then, suddenly, the phone in the dining room rang. The caller ID showed father. You did not answer. You let it ring again and again. Then you got up to fetch cigarettes and a lighter from the living room. The snap of the lighter was crisp. You took a drag on the cigarette. Then you closed your eyes again and slowly exhaled. The hand holding the cigarette hung loosely at your side. Your profile was veiled in swirling smoke. Once the ringing finally stopped, you went back to the dining room. You quietly finished your meal. She walked out of Lin Mo's apartment. The sudden heat that hit her was mixed with the damp chill of rain against her face. Cold and heat chased each other over her skin. She sneezed. She opened the umbrella. Without hesitation, she plunged into the rain haze. When she ran back to the school dorm, sure enough, the dorm Annie had already closed the door. She knocked on the Annie's window glass. There was no answer from inside. She held her breath and knocked again. The Annie started cursing from inside. Who is it, in the middle of the night? I said the doors close at 11:30. It is already past closing time. Please, could you open the door for me? I promise I will be back earlier next time. Mikai was getting anxious. She was afraid the Annie would really refuse to let her in. There was a brief silence inside. Then came the clink of keys. The dorm Annie had thrown a coat over herself. With a sullen face, she reluctantly opened the door. Seeing Mikai's face, she found it somewhat familiar. You are Mikai, right? She folded up the umbrella, shook off the water outside, and then brought it in. The dorm Annie's expression eased a little. She had seen her on the senior year rankings board. It is good to study, but you cannot keep at it this late. You even forgot the closing time. There had better not be a next time. Mikai did not explain. She just answered softly with an MMHM. Then she thanked her again and again. The dorm had lights out at 11:30. It was already midnight. In the hallway, she could still hear whispers and laughter, drifting from many dorm rooms. She lived in room 406. Just as she reached the 4th floor, she was stopped by Yingying, who was wearing a raincoat. Little Kai, why are you back so late? Still, it is lucky you just got back. That Yan came with a few girls, probably from another school. They came looking for you in a fury. You scared me to death. But before lights out, she never caught you. So she cursed her way out with the others. Hearing that, Mikai's taut nerves finally eased a little. That's good. It's good that she's gone. Not good at all. Yingying said through gritted teeth. When she could not find you, she took it out on your things. She soaked your quilts and bedding with water. How are you supposed to sleep tonight? Why don't you sleep with me tonight? Just make do for one night. I checked the forecast. Tomorrow is supposed to be sunny. Wait until your quilt dries before you go back to sleep. This was not the first time Yingying had done something like this. Every time she scored higher than Beiyuan on a test, she would take it out on her or on her things. Yingying meant well, but Mikai could not drag her down. If you help me, you'll be going against Yan. There are Yan's friends in your dorm. She will tattle, and it will drag you into being isolated too. I cannot worry about that now. How are you supposed to sleep when your quilt is soaked? Mikai shook her head. She forced a smile, with a trace of hidden bitterness. It is muggy tonight. I will not catch a cold even if I do not use a blanket tonight. You should go back first. Someone is coming this way. Mikai kept her distance from her, and stepped a little farther away. I am heading back to the dorm first. You should rest early too. Before Yingying could say anything else, Mikai waved her off. Then she turned and headed for 406. The dorm was a 6-person room. The moment she pushed the door open, the chatter inside cut off. The room fell silent. She quietly pulled the door shut behind her. She turned on her phone flashlight and walked to her bed. She must have flashed it into the eyes of a classmate on the lower bunk. That person clicked her tongue in annoyance. Mikai immediately switched the flashlight off. She groped her way to her bed in the dark. The quilt and sheets were completely wet. They could have been wrung out for water. Mikai hung her umbrella on the head of her bed. She bent down and rolled up the quilt, then crept in the dark to the balcony. She found a spot where the sun would reach it tomorrow, and hung up the dripping quilt. All that was left on the bed was the hard wooden board. Luckily, it was summer. She could sleep with some clothes over her at night. Mikai closed the balcony door. She sat down on the wooden bedboard. She took off her damp school uniform. From her pocket, she took out the medicine you had told her to bring back. In the endless black of the rainy night, the ointment tube reflected a faint glimmer of light. She put some medicine on her swollen red hand. Then she fumbled over the spots on her body that still hurt and applied more. The rustling was neither loud nor quiet. There was a faint sound of someone turning over on the lower bunk. Mikai was afraid of disturbing the others. You tossed your bag onto the desktop. You glanced at the empty seat in front of you. For someone who loved studying this much, she had somehow arrived later than he had. You kicked the chair aside, then leaned back in it. Your long legs were slightly bent. You were resting with your eyes closed. Then you heard a few girls in the back row coming, whispering to each other. Why is Mikai so unlucky? She offended Yan last night, and Yan soaked her bed. She cannot even sleep now, and today she got cornered again. It is one thing after another. Being top of the grade is really doing her no favors. Anyone who offends Yan is asking for trouble. You can only blame her bad luck. Why does Yan keep targeting her? I almost feel bad watching it. Then you probably do not know this. Yan likes Beiyuan. Beiyuan always comes to Mikai about math problems. So of course she would hate seeing that. And Mikai too. The two of them are childhood sweethearts. So, why does she keep forcing herself in? Isn't that just making herself miserable? Beiyuan comes from money. Mikai's family is poor. If Beiyuan could even take a liking to her, she probably would not even need to take the gaogao. As the two girls were talking, suddenly a pair of long legs blocked their view. One foot was braced against the wall. You slowly lifted your eyelids. The two girls turned red and flustered under your gaze. The new transfer student was insanely handsome. He had barely arrived and already dominated every dorm and the whole school. He was the hottest topic on the senior year forum board. Last night, what they talked about most was this very cocky transfer student. You just said, Mikai got cornered? You lifted your chin slightly, your voice still rough from lack of sleep. One of the girls stammered, red-faced. Why yes. You glanced at them from the corner of your eye. All casual and irreverent. Where did you see her? Lin Mo. Why are you asking about that? The girl held books against her chest. Her face flushed red. You just transferred here. So, you probably do not know Mikai well yet, right? You rested your chin on your right hand. Not really. The girl let out a breath of relief. After glancing over and seeing that Yan was not in her seat, she lowered her voice and said, You should not get too close to Mikai. It is best to stay away from her. Otherwise, you will be the unlucky one. Hearing that, you gave a dismissive snort. The girl thought he did not believe her. Any classmate who had even been loosely associated with her before had been warned by Yan. Even her deskmate, Wang King, did not really hang out with her. They were afraid Yan would set her sights on them. So, for our own good, it is better if we keep our distance from her. You pulled your leg back, then set it down on the floor. You spoke casually. I like playing with danger. The girl did not react at first. You lifted the corner of your mouth. Where was she cornered? The girl was practically dazed by your smile. She answered in a stumbling rush. It was the track by the sports field. When we were walking over, we saw Mikai being dragged over there. After she finished, another girl tucked a strand of hair behind her ear and stole a glance at him. She said shyly, Lin Mo, do you want to have lunch together at noon? I will treat you to that new Japanese place outside school. Not really. You stood up lazily, rolled your neck, and toyed with your phone in your fingers. You replied offhandedly, eating with people like you, who only gossip behind a classmate's back, would give me indigestion. After saying that, you ignored the embarrassed looks on their faces, put your hands in your pockets, and headed outside. Meanwhile, Mikai was shoved onto the sports field by three boys. They took her to the farthest corner under the bleachers. At this hour, most classes were in morning reading. Even the security guards hardly came by to check. So, you are Mikai, right? Last night Sister Rui told you to go to the alley. So, why did you not go? You stood Sister Rui up. How did you even dare? One of them shoved her hard in the shoulder, and Mikai's back slammed into the chalky wall. These guys were not from the school. They wore ripped jeans, with yellow-dyed hair. They were unemployed street punks. For them to get into Qingyuan, it had to be Yan's doing. Say something. The bleached blonde punk sized her up without any politeness. You are actually pretty good-looking. If this were outside school, you would have already tried to take advantage of her. Too bad this was school. Yan only told them to teach her a lesson and not make a scene. Weren't you yelling pretty loud when you came here? Calling for teachers and security guards and all that? Why are you too scared to shout now? He patted her face. Mikai flinched. She instinctively raised a hand to block him. This is school. So, do not go too far. Her warning earned only 3 contemptuous laughs. Oh, do not go too far? This is nothing. How are we going too far? You have not seen us be really rough with a girl yet. Want to see an even rougher side of us? One of the men kept brushing against her chest. Mikai panicked at once. She shoved the man away with all her strength and tried to slip through the gap to run. But before she could, someone grabbed her wrist and yanked her straight back. The back of her head hit the wall. It felt like her bones were about to come apart. Her wrist had no strength left at all. This brat still wants to run. You think the 3 of us are pushovers? Her panic only seemed to amuse them. The few of them exchanged a look. Their grip slowly tightened. While she was struggling, Mikai clawed hard at the man's face. The man cried out in pain. He touched the blood on his face. Furious, he picked up the brick from the ground and was about to smash it down. Mikai let out an instinctive scream. She crouched on the ground, using her arms to shield her head. But the pain she expected never came. A pain howl came from above her. My hand. She carefully lifted her head through the gap between her arms. She saw that the bleached blonde punk's hand holding the brick had been twisted a full 90 degrees. You, somehow appearing there without anyone noticing, continued pressing it down without changing expression. The force looked brutal, yet somehow you did not seem to be using much strength at all. The blonde punk's arm was effortlessly wrenched behind his back. The brick in his hand dropped straight to the ground. His howls of pain were already rising and falling nonstop. Before the other two could rush in, you flung him like a sandbag, hurling him forward, straight into the other two. You bent down and picked up the brick from the ground, and the exercise book with her name on it. Your long, pale fingers brushed the dust off it. Clutching his hand, the blonde punk snarled. Who the hell are you? Trying to play the hero here. This has nothing to do with you. You lifted your eyelids and gave the three of them a flat look. How is it not my business? I found something. Then you casually tossed the brick up and down with one hand. This is yours, right? Did you drop a gold brick or a silver one? Or was it this ordinary brick? You were a whole head taller than those punks. You still looked as lazy and careless as ever. But your presence was somehow on another level. Just that careless little trick with the brick made the blonde punk, who had been showing off a second ago, stumble back several steps. Three of them against one, and not one of them dared to move. So, you want to act like a hero, huh? Just you wait. I will remember you. After saying that, the three of them ran off. With that level of skill, you still have the nerve to run with street punks. You tossed the brick aside and brushed the dust off your hands. Only then did you remember there was still someone else there. Turning back, you lastly glanced at her and snorted. You make a spectacle of yourself every time. You get bullied both on campus and off campus. You need a hospital for that trouble magnet constitution of yours. Mikai's heartbeat still had not calmed down. When she finally came back to her senses, she looked up at him with red-rimmed eyes. You stood against the light, lounging loosely in front of her. Your tall frame completely enveloped her. For some reason, her eyes only turned redder. Why are you staring at me like that? Even if I am this handsome, you do not need to stare for so long. After a few seconds of eye contact, you lifted your brows slightly, then dropped your gaze and frowned. That hand swollen like a club was even more swollen now. Chances were those punks had aggravated the injury from yesterday. Leaning against the wall, Mikai slowly straightened up. The moment she steadied herself, you grabbed the wrist of her other hand and dragged her forward. What are you doing? Where are you taking me? Class is about to start. Without even turning around, you said. Infirmary. Mikai broke free of your hand and stood there without moving. I am not going to the infirmary. The bell rang, and she said, Class has started. Let us go back. She reached for her textbook to take it back. You shoved one hand into your pocket and held the textbook up with the other, and you would not give it back to her, even if she tiptoed. Mikai still could not reach it and started to panic. What are you doing? Class has already started. You looked down at her from above, your tone cold and hard. Class, I want to see what you will use to take your exams after that hand is ruined. Are you planning to answer by sheer willpower? Mikai clenched her swollen, aching hand. She could not argue with you. She let out a whisper so faint it was barely audible. Even if I do go to the infirmary, I still have to ask for leave first, right? Otherwise the homeroom teacher will give me a demerit. You are awfully obedient to her. Then, when other people bully you, why does she not give them a demerit? What good does your obedience do? Your faint, teasing snort stripped Mikai of any strength left to defend herself. A bitter sting spread little by little into her eyes. Mikai lowered her head, pressing her lips together, saying nothing. You let out a cold laugh. Without giving her room to refuse, you grabbed her other hand and strode toward the infirmary. This time, she did not resist. Her wrist was thinner than a bamboo pole. It felt uncomfortable even in your hand. Did Yan Lan send those three people? Thinking of the two girls gossiping earlier, you shifted slightly and gave her a fairly casual glance. Is she coming after you so hard because you stole her boyfriend? Mikai looked up. You mean Feng Yuan? The moment I said it, you knew. Looks like you really care about that Feng Yuan. You pressed your tongue against your cheek. Then why did you not go ask Feng Yuan for help? Instead, you came to me. Mikai sniffled. Yinlan is targeting me because of Fang Yuan. If I went to Fang Yuan, she would never let me go. At that, you snorted. In a way, you are not completely brainless. After taking 2 steps, you kept facing forward and asked casually, "So, you really do like Fang Yuan?" This time, she did not answer. You turned your head to look at her. Mikai kept her head down, one hand slipping into her pocket, staring dazedly at the ground. No one knew what she was thinking. You tapped her head with the textbook. "I am talking to you. You really like him, do you?" Mikai looked a little blank. "Like what?" You narrowed your good-looking eyes and studied her for a moment. "I do not care what you like." You shook off her hand and kept walking forward, expressionless. Mikai had no idea how she had upset him. She hurried after him with quick steps. "I just spaced out a moment ago. I did not hear what you said clearly. Could you say it again?" "What am I? Your dog. Just because you ask me to say it again, I have to say it again?" Your steps never slowed. Your long legs only moved faster. She had to break into a run just to keep up. "Lin Mo, are you angry? I will apologize to you, okay?" Even as she asked that, she was already rushing out an apology. "Please do not be angry. You have only known me for 1 day, and already she had worn you down with countless sorries until your head hurt." Your steps came to an abrupt stop, but she could not stop in time. Her forehead bumped into your lean back. Your distinctive cedar scent filled her nose. It was the same smell as in your apartment. It smelled very good. Only your chest was so hard it hurt her nose. She tilted her head up, her nose stinging. Her eyes misted over. Your face was already dark, and when you saw that, you thought she was about to cry. In a low, deep voice, "Do you have some weird addiction to apologizing? Sorry for this. Sorry for that. Are you sorry to the whole world?" Mikai pressed her lips together, her hair stirring in the light breeze. "I just do not want you to be unhappy. I do not want to lose you as a friend." Your irritation somehow vanished. You did not even realize your tone had softened. A real friend does not need an apology just because you call him a dog. No apology would be needed. Still, something felt off. "When did I ever agree to be friends with you? Who said I want to be friends with you? You are really good at assigning yourself a role." You turned around and walked off with cool indifference. Mikai got a little anxious. Without really thinking, she reached out and grabbed your hand. The instant she touched you, you straightened your back. It felt different from when you were the one dragging her along. That feeling was strange and very odd. Even though there was not much force behind it, your feet would not lift. "Linmo classmate, you ate the meal I made yesterday, and you even gave me ointment. Aren't those the kinds of things friends do? And you rescued me just now. I thought that made us friends." You looked down at the hand she was holding. You did not pull away. Your tone stayed flat. "I just like stepping in when someone needs help. Is that not allowed? Besides, you are way too casual. Someone helps you, and you immediately become friends with them. How cheap is friendship with you? I do not care." Hearing that, Mikai unconsciously lowered her eyes and slowly let go of your hand. The warmth on your hand disappeared all at once. You rubbed your fingertips awkwardly, frowning in discomfort. "What are you standing there for? Get to the infirmary now. Are you waiting for me to carry you there?" Your tone was as impatient as ever. Mikai gave a soft "oh" and started walking, obediently following behind you. It had just rained last night. Sunlight filtering through the branches of the poplar trees felt fresh, as if it had just been washed clean. It streamed across your shoulder like falling stars. Class had already started. The reading from the school buildings and the endless cicadas in the trees made the best symphony of summer. Mikai looked up at the tall, slender boy walking ahead, one hand carrying her textbook, the other lazily stuffed in his pocket as he walked. Mikai opened her mouth, unable to hide her curiosity. "Why did you come to the sports field side? Why did you come to the sports field side? You did not even turn your head. Just taking a walk. Is that not allowed?" But class was about to start, and this place is so out of the way. You had only just arrived at the school. How did you find this place? Your tone was calm. Are you a walking book of questions? So many questions. If you want to ask something, just ask. Do not dance around it. I just want to ask whether you came over on purpose to help me. Her tone was so uncertain that Mikai still held on to a sliver of hope. After all, this place was far from the school buildings. You ignored her and lazily curled one corner of your mouth, not hearing your voice. Mikai looked at you. The boy's profile was smooth and sharply defined. Maybe he thought she was too noisy. He put on his earphones, cutting off her voice. You were the one who told her to ask. Now, you were ignoring her. Mikai wisely kept quiet. Not until you reached the school infirmary. Did you take off your earphones and push Mikai in front of the doctor? The doctor checked Mikai's hand. It really was badly swollen and red. It needed to be massaged with ointment for 15 minutes. When the doctor applied pressure, Mikai drew in a soft breath from the pain. Your mouth twitched. She sniffled, just about to say it hurt a little. But then she remembered what you said last night. By the time it reached her lips, it changed to, it's okay. You, leaning with one shoulder against the wall, told the doctor. Take it easy. Her little wrist cannot take you pressing so hard on it. You could break it. The doctor eased up a little and laughed, saying, all right, I'll be gentler. Luckily, nothing serious is damaged. It's just a little swollen. Use this ointment for a few days to improve circulation and clear the bruising, and let it heal properly. Then it will get better. Thank you, doctor, Mikai said softly. Under the doctor's massage, the ointment began to warm. The blockage inside seemed to open up. It hurt noticeably less. After the massage, the doctor noticed the unusual flush in her cheeks and touched the back of her hand to her forehead. Little girl, you have a fever, don't you? Why did you not say anything? The doctor took a thermometer from the drawer and handed it to her. Take your temperature. Let me see how high the fever is. You frowned, glancing at Mikai, who was still confused, then took the thermometer from the doctor and shook it. You do not even know when you have a fever. How dumb can you be? Thinking back to the girls' gossip in class, it was probably because her blanket got wet last night, and she had nothing to cover herself with. She must have started burning up in the middle of the night. Mikai touched her own forehead. It really was a little hot. She had thought it was just the sun, so she had not paid attention. She took the thermometer you handed her and softly said thank you, then dutifully held it in place. You walked over to the water dispenser, filled a disposable cup with warm water, and gave it to her. Mikai held the warm water. Thank you, Linmo. I am making you miss class. Maybe you should go back first. One hand in your pocket, the other holding your phone as you looked down at it. You talk too much. After taking her temperature, you saw it was already 38 degrees. That is a serious fever. The doctor wanted her to stay and get in for drip. Mikai insisted on not getting one, so the doctor prescribed fever medicine instead. After leaving the infirmary, Mikai said, I will pay back this 15 yuan as soon as I can. She had already spent her living allowance for the week. You had paid the medical bill just now. You tapped her head with your textbook. You study so hard your head's gone fuzzy. And you are still worrying about 15 yuan now. You should be worrying about whether your hand can heal faster, and when the fever will break. Mikai touched her head, then looked down at her hand. I keep causing you trouble. If you know you are a hassle, then just think about yourself coming to find me yesterday, and about how that is any different from marching straight into danger with explosives strapped to your back. Just stay farther away from me next time. Mikai fell silent at that. Even though she had a fever, her face had gone a little pale. She said quietly, it will not happen again. I will not cause you trouble again. Just one day. And I have already caused you more than enough trouble. Anyone would be annoyed. Then your voice suddenly came from above her head. Actually, I am not that afraid of trouble. Mikai instinctively lifted her eyes, not understanding what you meant. Then she saw the man looking down at her from above. He handed his workbook to her in front of her, his movements slow and unhurried. What matters is what payoff this trouble brings me. Mikai suddenly remembered what you said that first day in the alley. What he said. What good is a simple thank you? You need something real. If you do not give people some sweetener, who will help you next time? What kind of payoff do you want? Yesterday, she had already gone that far, and he still seemed completely put off by her. Mikai searched through every pocket on her body, but she could not pull out anything decent. She did not know what would make you happy. Just as she was about to ask, she saw you lower your head and stare at her without blinking. She touched her own face, thinking she had something dirty on it. Just then, she had swept aside her heavy bangs, and that pretty face was fully revealed. The sunlight outside was strong, painting a faint blush across her fair cheeks. You forced yourself to resist the urge to reach out and pinch them. Your throat tightening, you looked away from her face and said awkwardly, what else? Go back to class. Her steps were small, so you, walking in front, slowed down quite a bit. But you did not slow on purpose. It was enough for you to walk normally, while letting the poor little thing behind you keep up. Golden sunlight streamed through the hallway, and a beam of it spilled across the two of you. Your intertwined shadows on the floor, one ahead of the other, moved in sync. Even their silhouettes looked especially harmonious. At the classroom door, you stopped. You pulled a cigarette from your pocket and held it between your lips, then motioned for her to go in first. Mikai thought you wanted to smoke outside. She was just about to say, the school did not allow smoking, that you would be punished when you spoke first. I told you to go in first, so go in first. What are you standing there for? Go in, she said softly. The school does not allow smoking. If you get caught, you will get a public reprimand, and you might even be pressured to withdraw. You curled your lips in that rough, cocky way. Stop minding my business. I can barely take care of myself, and you think you can start taking care of me. Seeing that she could not talk you out of it, Mikai only hoped the school leaders would not see you. She raised her hand and knocked on the door. This was the homeroom teacher's class. The moment she saw Mikai was late, she started criticizing her on the spot. Mikai, why are you late again? You only ranked first on a quiz, not the Gaokao. Look at how full of yourself you have gotten. You are late all the time. Do you even want to graduate? Liu Yaoji, sitting in his seat, was startled to see Mikai come back safe and sound. And was stunned for a moment. Then he met Yan Lan's gaze, and quickly explained in a low voice. I clearly arranged for people to deal with her. I do not know what happened, but she just... Yan Lan scraped her pen across the test paper, her eyes dark and gloomy. Mikai had stood her up last night. That was a first, and an unprecedented one at that. She really was getting bolder and bolder. The reprimanded Mikai kept her head down and did not make a sound. The homeroom teacher got more and more irritated. Tomorrow I'll have your parents come in. Before she could finish, another louche figure stood sideways beside Mikai, with a cigarette still in his mouth. He lazily said, her parents cannot come. The homeroom teacher's words stuck in her throat. Classmate Linmo, why are you late too? And you're even in this state. The school strictly forbids smoking. Just now, she had even wanted to in front of the whole class make Mikai call in her parents. And Linmo's behavior was obviously nothing compared to that. You took the cigarette from your lips with one hand and came late because something came up at the last minute. Do you have a problem with that? The homeroom teacher was instantly speechless. If this had not been someone the principal personally brought in, she would have already hauled him off to the security office for a public reprimand. The boys below were whispering among themselves. They all thought Linmo had shown off too hard this time and was probably going to be expelled. Some of the girls were whispering to each other, with suspicious blushes on their faces. That face of yours is so arrogant and cocky, with a careless air of refined privilege to it. Some girls even thought a student like you, who looked obviously improper, would be better off expelled early, so you would not ruin the class atmosphere. The homeroom teacher's mouth twitched. The friendly expression she was trying so hard to maintain looked a little twisted. Classmate Linmo, the school rules say students are not allowed to smoke. You have broken the rules. Throw the cigarette away now. You smiled and snapped the cigarette between your fingers. Then I'll pay attention next time. The homeroom teacher quickly gave herself a way out too. A student who can admit mistakes and correct them is a good student. Now hurry back to your seat. Next time, do not bring cigarettes to school again. Then she shot Mikai a cold glare. Mikai, you can go back too. Mikai lowered her head and walked back to her seat. Even without lifting her head, she could still faintly feel three especially sharp gazes, as if they wanted to carve a hole through her. Yan Lan really was staring at her. Her eyes were vicious in a way that did not match her age. Yesterday, Mikai had made her wait in the rain for ages, and when she went back to the dorm, she still could not find her. Mikai must have been hiding somewhere too afraid to come out. Yan Lan could not swallow that humiliation, so she told Liu Yaoji to find a few people to teach her a lesson. She had not expected Mikai to come back safe and sound, without even receiving any punishment. Your hand was lazily in your pocket, and you walked behind her. This class was about the math test from the previous lesson. The homeroom teacher had already checked the scores and handed them out. Fang Yuan from Class 1 and Yan Lan from Class 3 tied for first place. Wang King, sitting next to her, glanced at Mikai's test paper and muttered softly, Yan Lan clearly copied your paper. So, how did you still score for points less than her? She pulled away Mikai's hand that was covering it, and saw where the points had been deducted. These two multiple-choice questions were basic formula problems. There was no way you could have gotten them wrong. A thought turned in her mind, and she understood. She lowered her voice in shock. You did that on purpose, didn't you? Mikai said with her head down. I did not want full marks. It was just an ordinary in-class test. But Wang Qing felt awful. You were afraid that if you got first again, Yin Lan would hold it against you, right? If they had not been in class, she would have wanted to pound the desk. Qingyuan is such a big high school, yet somehow she alone gets to call the shots. It was infuriating. Liangshang is a tiny county that does not even count as a third-tier city. Last year, it was even classified as a designated poor county. In a county like that, Yin Lan, with her enormous family wealth, really did have the power to rule the place unchecked. Rumor had it that many of her relatives were county officials. She had connections everywhere. People like them who got bullied were angry but too afraid to speak up. They were terrified of being targeted by someone like that. Just endure it until the Gaokao is over. No matter how long her reach is, she cannot get her hands on the Gaokao. By then, there will be no test papers for her to copy. Mikai flattened out her test paper and looked at the blackboard. The countdown on it kept reminding the students of the Gaokao date, the end date of this dark stretch. That was true, but Wang Qing still looked dejected. The Provincial Education Bureau escorts the Gaokao papers. The exam papers are also escorted by specially selected military personnel. Yin Lan was smug. She would only get to be smug for these 90 days. Once the Gaokao was over, they could leave Qingyuan High School, leave this county town. The dark days would eventually give way to light, but these 90 days would not be easy to get through. After class, Liu Yaoji called the punks. He asked what had happened when he heard the people on the other end say that a boy had rescued her and taken her away. Liu Yaoji immediately thought of Lin Mo, who had come in with Mikai. What happened? What did those people say? Yin Lan admired her freshly done nails and shot him a sit-along glance. Do not tell me they could not even handle one little girl. Liu Yaoji said that she was rescued by someone. I think the one helping her was Lin Mo. Yin Lan narrowed her eyes. She turned her head to look toward the back right side. Mikai was keeping her head down, writing on her paper. And Lin Mo in the back row was sleeping with his earphones on. The two of them did not seem to have much interaction. They knew each other before. He helped her in the alley, and this time he helped her again. What exactly was their relationship? Problems kept coming one after another. Yin Lan was irritated to the extreme. Do not be angry. Why think so much about it? Maybe someone just handled things badly and is making all these excuses. From the row behind Yin Lan, Fan Yubin deliberately mocked Liu Yaoji. Liu Yaoji glared at him. What do you mean by that? If you are so capable, you do it. You were the one who could not handle it in the first place. And now you will not even let people say it. Fan Yubin said ingratiatingly to Yin Lan. I will have people deal with her tonight. If that Lin Mo shows up too, we will deal with him along with her. No matter how good he is at fighting, one person cannot fight off a crowd, right? Not to mention I brought a lot of people this time. Yin Lan's expression finally eased up a little. Go do it. I have something else tonight, so I will not go. Do not embarrass me this time. Do not worry, Sister Rue. Fan Yubin glanced toward Mikai's direction. He let out a cold snort. A little girl like her. You think I cannot handle her? This time I will definitely vent Sister Rui's anger for you. After the morning classes were over, the whole class felt gloomy. As soon as the bell rang, there was no trace of lethargy left. Everyone hurried off toward the cafeteria, afraid they would miss the first batch of food and have to eat the leftovers from the second batch. Wang Qing had wanted to go with Mikai. Mikai insisted on finishing the problem first and told her to go on ahead. After finishing the last big problem and checking it against the correct answer, Mikai finally put down her pen. The window was tapped twice. She instinctively turned her head, and her body suddenly stiffened. In summer, the windows were always open for ventilation. Fang Yuan's clear, gentle face was right outside the window. People were coming and going in the hallway. His gaze settled firmly on Mikai. Mikai, do you have time now? I have a math problem and a science comprehensive problem I want to discuss with you. Mikai lowered her head instinctively, avoiding his gaze. Fang Yuan noticed the swelling on her hand and looked a little worried. What happened to your hand? It looks pretty bad. Did you hurt it? She immediately pulled her hand back into her sleeve. Seeing Fang Yuan, Yin Lan sprang out of her seat like a little bird, looped her arm through his and acted spoiled. Brother Fang Yuan, you came to see me. You came. So why did you not call for me? Fang Yuan let out a helpless laugh. I am not here to see you. I came to ask Mikai about a math problem. Yin Lan's smile faded by 9/10. Why look for Mikai? You could always come discuss math with me too. Fang Yuan smiled helplessly and tapped the tip of her nose. Do not think I do not know how you answered your math paper. The math papers for the two classes are graded against each other. Every time, Fang Yuan would deliberately grade Mikai's paper. He knew her problem-solving style well. Although you got to multiple choice questions wrong this time, Yinlan's working steps were exactly the same as Mikai's. There was no such thing as that kind of coincidence. Write your paper properly next time. Stop copying other people all the time. Only what you write yourself counts as real skill. Hearing that, Yinlan looked very unhappy. When did I ever copy? If anyone copied, it would be them copying me. She looked at Mikai, with warning in her eyes. Isn't that right, Mikai? Did you copy mine? Mikai's face went even paler. She lowered her head and said nothing. Fang Yuan's expression darkened. His face turned a little cold. Ryan, do not be willful. I am very familiar with Mikai's way of solving problems. You could not have written steps like that. Stop being unreasonable. Go apologize to Mikai. Being spoken to like that by the person she liked, and even being told to apologize. Yinlan's eyes immediately reddened. Brother Fang Yuan, how could you say that to me? Realizing his tone had been too harsh, he sighed and patted her hair. That is not what I meant. Today is your birthday. You get to call the shots. Do not hold it against me, all right? Yinlan wiped away her tears. She gave an unwilling hum. Then she said in a sulky voice, both families are having dinner together tonight to celebrate my birthday. You have to get me a present. You cannot forget. When have I ever forgotten? Fang Yuan comforted her for a while. Yinlan's expression finally improved, seeing that his sit-along glances still kept drifting to Mikai, asking her about the math problem. A pair of eyes like venomous snakes kept fixed on her, warning her not to talk to Fang Yuan. When Fang Yuan saw that Mikai was ignoring him, he frowned slightly. Mikai, why are you not saying anything? Did I offend you? Actually, I just wanted to. Before he could finish, an irritated voice rang out. Will you shut up already? Do you ever shut up? You sure have a lot to say. You keep yakking all day long, buzzing like a fly. Can you not see I am trying to sleep? At some point, you in the back row had taken off your earphones. You straightened up. Then you leaned lazily back in your chair. Fang Yuan glanced sideways. He recognized him as the transfer student from that day. He smelled like smoke. He was not wearing a uniform. Not a good student. Even if I talk, I am not breaking any rules, am I? You lifted your eyes and gave him a glance. Then you idly brushed the hair from your forehead. If you disturb my sleep, then you are breaking the rules. If you do not like it, keep it to yourself. Yinlan was furious. You are too arrogant. Do you know who Brother Fang Yuan is? You rested your chin on your hand and sat in your seat. Your right hand lazily spun a pen. Looking at you, I can already tell what kind of person he is. Let me think. As if remembering something, you curved your lips into a smile. There are a few idioms, let me tell you, that really suit the two of you. Birds of a feather. Partners in crime. Cut from the same rotten cloth. Your rotten little clique. Yinlan was just about to explode, but Fang Yuan held her back and said coolly, do not bother arguing with people like that. He glanced at the time on his expensive wristwatch. I still need to go to the office. When he finished, he looked at Mikai. Mikai, I will come find you again next time to discuss the problems. I really admire your problem-solving approach and your study skills. If there is a chance, I hope we can learn from each other and help each other. Seeing that Mikai kept her head down and said nothing, he did not say any more. He left class 3 looking a little unhappy. Fang Yuan left. Yinlan stopped pretending. Together with Fan Yubin and Liu Yaoji, they blocked Mikai at her seat. About those problem-solving methods. You knew I copied that paper. So, why could you not change the steps? Were you deliberately trying to make me look bad in front of Brother Fang Yuan? Mikai said nothing. Her hand slipped almost imperceptibly into the drawer. You glanced over. If I'm not mistaken, what she touched seemed to be a voice recorder. So the spineless one was not some harmless little softy after all. And not without claws either. Recording us secretly, huh? Mikai said. It was you who copied my answers. If anything needed changing, you should have changed them. You still dare talk back. Yinlan was so angry she snatched the book off Mikai's desk and slammed it to the floor. Mikai's body trembled. She instinctively lifted a hand to shield herself. You pressed your tongue lightly against your jaw. You kicked Mikai's chair with your leg. Go get me a cup of water. Mikai froze. She turned back to look at you. You tapped the tabletop twice with your index finger. Hurry up. Mikai put down her mechanical pencil. As she stood, she tugged down her school uniform skirt. Then she picked up the water cup on her desk and stood. Yan gritted her teeth. Stop right there. Who said you could leave? I did. If you do not like it, keep it to yourself. Your lazy gaze swept over her. Want to fight? I don't hit women. But seeing that face of yours, I think I can make an exception. You rolled your wrist, then stood up from your seat. But do you really think that brain of yours can take one punch from me? You only made a small gesture, and the three of them were so scared they backed away. This is school. If you dare hit me, you are dead. You gave a careless laugh. Taking 3 people down with me before I go would not be a bad way to rid the school of a menace. Let me see. Which one should I hit first? With every step forward, the 3 of them took a step back. That left the way wide open. You glanced at me, Kai. I told you to get water, and you are just standing there watching the show. Me, Kai, only then realizing what was happening, took your cup. She lowered her head and walked past those 3, then went to the water dispenser by the podium. After you had gotten physical last time, Yan was a little scared of you, and she still could not figure out your background. So, she did not plan to go head-to-head with you. But Fan Yubin was itching to show off. He wanted to redeem himself from last time. Liu Yaoji said to them, forget it. Anyway, tonight we can block her at the milk tea shop where Mikai works. Then it'll be 10 against 1. I do not believe he can still keep. You vaguely heard it. Did these people think they were deaf? Yan thought that made sense. In the end, she threw out a resentful line. Do not get smug. Anyway, I warned you. Getting close to Mikai does not end well. After that, the 3 of them left in a sorry state. Mikai came back after getting the water. She had just heard that last line. She gently set the cup back on Linmo's desk. It was warm water. You can drink it now. You gave a low grunt of acknowledgement. Then you tossed her a meal card. Bring me a meal. Mikai moved her lips as if she wanted to say something. She wanted to thank him for stepping in just then. You had already put on your headphones. With your back to her, you lay on the desk and went to sleep. Lunch break was about to start. So, she could only go to the cafeteria first to get food. By the time she got to the cafeteria, she remembered that she had forgotten to ask what dishes you wanted. It was too late to run back. And she did not have your number either. Mikai thought it over. Then, based on what you liked last night, she got to meat dishes and 1 vegetable dish. She only used her meal card to buy a steamed bun and tucked it into her pocket. She packed the food into a lunch container. Then someone bumped into her. That person's food spilled all over her school uniform. Are you blind or what? You deliberately crashed into my tray. You did that on purpose, didn't you? The girl speaking was Yan's friend, Liu Yingying. Mikai was covered in broth. There was a huge stain across her chest, and sticky bits were dripping down. Everyone around her kept well away. Their disgusted looks seemed to have thorns in them. They stabbed straight into her heart. Mikai struggled to hold back her tears. She lowered her head and headed out of the cafeteria. Liu Yingying blocked her path. You knocked my food over. Pay me for a new one. Mikai lifted her head and said each word clearly. You got the food on me. You should be apologizing to me. Instead, you want me to pay for your meal. That is not how it works. The girl brushed her bangs aside. She gave a contemptuous snort. I got it on you? Do you have proof? I could say you deliberately bumped into me and spilled my food. Now you are the one turning around and blaming the victim. Now I see it clearly. So there is a reason nobody likes you. Anyway, if you do not pay for my meal today, you are not leaving. At worst, we can bring a teacher over to settle this. More and more people gathered to watch. Under the murmurs and pointing fingers, Mikai still kept her back straight. Then call a teacher over. There are cameras here. Were you doing that on purpose? The surveillance footage will show everything clearly. Liu Yingying froze for a moment. The usual Mikai was like a block of tofu, easy for anyone to push around. She never said a word. She had not expected her to have this much backbone. Little Kai, how did this happen to you? Wang King, who was eating, heard the commotion. When she saw it was Mikai, she quickly pushed through the crowd. She used tissues to wipe the stains on her, but it was all greasy grime. It would not come off at all. She turned to look at the smug Liu Yingying. You did this on purpose, for sure. Who does not know you are close with Yan? You were deliberately targeting little Kai. Wang King, I advise you not to meddle. Liu Yingying's tone carried a warning. Your mom is the cafeteria serving Annie, right? If you do not want her to lose her job, you'd better step aside. Wang King's eyes turned red with anger. Mikai tugged at Wang King's hand. She let out a breath. This has nothing to do with you. There are cameras here. I will go check the surveillance footage. She glanced at Liu Yingying. Anyway, whoever did this on purpose knows it in their own heart. Liu Yingying snorted. She did not look afraid at all. With so many people here, everyone was pushing and jostling. Even with cameras, she could say someone bumped into her. Mikai said calmly, "If the footage shows you did it on purpose, you must apologize to me." Liu Yingying raised her thin brows. She was just about to speak when a lazy voice cut through the crowd. "How is an apology enough? Your hands were in your pockets, and the pressure coming off you was intense." The people watching without thinking stepped aside to make a path. Liu Yingying recognized who it was. The girls in the dorm had been talking about this transfer student all night. "I say, classmate, she deliberately knocked your food over, and that is all you want." Liu Yingying even thought he was on her side. She blushed and asked, "Then what do you think should be done?" "You thought about it, and said, at the very least, we should splash it back." Before Liu Yingying could even process what that meant, the next second, you snatched the lunchbox from Mikai's hands and dumped it over her. Under Liu Yingying's screams, 3 trays of food soaked her from head to toe and left her a drenched mess. Liu Yingying could not even dodge it. She ended up utterly miserable and humiliated. The onlookers all sucked in a sharp breath. They all instinctively stepped back. You casually threw the lunchbox onto the floor, grabbed Mikai, who was still stunned, and strode off on long legs, heading straight out of the cafeteria. Behind you came Liu Yingying's crying. Her friends were trying to comfort her. Mikai glanced back once, then quickly looked away again. She jogged to catch up to your pace. This was bad. Liu Yingying was definitely going to report this to a teacher. Not far from the cafeteria, you slowed your steps. Mikai lowered her head and looked at the hand you were holding. Your palm was dry and warm. It felt very warm. It was as if being held like this could instantly wrap her in an unearned sense of safety. Once you reached a place with few people around, you let go of her hand. You were surprisingly tough this time. You knew how to push back. Good improvement. If you had not had a last-minute conscience and remembered she was still running a fever, it would probably have been a bad idea to send her off to get food. That was why you followed her out. Otherwise, you would not have seen what just happened. You even praised yourself. Mikai put her hands behind her back and lifted her chin. If Liu Yingying reports this to a teacher, just push the blame onto me. Say I was the one who told you to splash her. Anyway, once they check the cameras, she splashed me, so that makes us even. The teacher would not be able to say much either. You looked at her. Someone is unable to handle trouble as she was should own what she did. You want me to push the blame onto a girl? Do you think I am as spineless as you? No matter how Mikai heard it, it did not sound like a compliment. You were helping me vent my anger, so I could not drag you into it. You let out a scoff. Are you being dramatic or what? Mikai's lashes fluttered a little. Aren't you afraid of trouble? I just do not want to cause trouble for you. That actually left you speechless. You seem to have said something like that before. You covered your mouth with a finger and coughed twice. Your voice had a slightly cocky edge. I also said I am not really that afraid of trouble, and you only got bullied because you were getting food from me. I should at least take half the blame. You looked down at the stains on her clothes. That uniform was done for. If she kept wearing it, it would probably start smelling. Mikai took a small step back. She also looked down at herself and said with her lips pressed together, "Then I will go back to the dorm first and change clothes." If a teacher looks for trouble with her, she can step up and explain things clearly. You lifted a fingertip and scratched the center of your brow. Why do I remember this lousy school not having anywhere to shower? The dorms did not have private bathrooms. Every time they bathed, they had to go to the bathhouse outside school. It cost 10 yuan a wash. It was not just her uniform that was dirty. She was covered in broth too. But Mikai could not bear to spend those 10 yuan. I can go back to the dorm, get a basin of water, and wipe myself off. That will be fine. There should not be anyone in the dorm right now anyway. Go shower at my place. You suddenly blurted that out. Mikai froze for a moment. The summer heat somehow felt even more stifling. Cicadas were screeching nonstop. You spoke in a slow, unhurried voice. No matter what, this happened because of me. The apartment is not far from school. You should be back before class starts. Would that be too much trouble for you? Mikai felt it would be bad to bother you. I have not even said it is trouble yet. What trouble are you talking about? You gave her a look that was hard to read. You are not thinking I would do something to you, are you? And that is why you are hesitating. Someone like you? Do not flatter yourself. I am just a decent person. For some reason, you thought of what happened last night. Mikai clenched her fingers, her face burning hot. I know. She had brought the humiliation on herself. Mikai went back to the dorm first to get a change of uniform. She followed behind you all the way out of school. After turning through to alleys, you reached the apartment where you lived. The door opened. You pulled out the key and tossed it onto the cabinet. You already know where the bathroom is. The room was still set up exactly as it had been when she left yesterday. Mikai was about to take off her shoes before coming in. You said, "There is no need to be so particular." Mikai looked at her shoes. They were clean and neat. Not that dirty. Only then did she carefully step onto the beautiful wooden floor. But you were supposed to wear slippers even in the bathroom. She had only brought a change of clothes. She had actually forgotten to bring slippers. So she asked a little shyly, "Could you lend me a pair of slippers? I forgot to bring mine." You folded your arms across your chest, leaning carelessly against the wall. You lifted a brow. "The only pair here is mine. If you do not mind, just use them." "I do not mind. I do not mind." You pointed toward the shoe cabinet. Bending down, she took your slippers out of the cabinet. You glanced down casually. Her long hair fell down on both sides of her chest. What caught your eye was a small stretch of the back of her neck. It was so pale it was almost blinding. Her soft little feet were tucked into slippers shaped like little boats. Even the way she stood there made her look so obedient. The corner of your mouth lifted. Then you quickly pressed it back down. It should have looked awkward and mismatched, but somehow the feeling was strangely pleasant. You walked over, pushed open the bathroom door, and said to her over your shoulder, "Hot water is on the left. Cold water is on the right. Use the body wash and hair dryer however you like." "Got it." You stepped aside to make room. Mikai went inside. When you came back out, you heard the soft sound of the door closing behind you. She did not even lock it. The little girl had not seen much of the world. Was she really this unguarded? But being unguarded was fine. A good guy like me is rare in this world. Before long, there was a faint rustling sound from inside. The sound of clothes being taken off. It was very soft, but in the quiet atmosphere, even the smallest sound seemed to magnify on its own. It was impossibly clear. You stood frozen there, your tongue pressed against your cheek. You could not help glancing sideways. The frosted glass door faintly showed the girl's slim silhouette. Your eyes flickered. You quickly pulled your gaze back. Then you flopped onto the sofa. For no reason, your mind pictured the way she had taken off her clothes in front of you last night. Her shy expression when she removed her top. And yet it was exactly that not yet ripe sweetness, like an innocent peach. That untouched purity. It was the kind of thing that seemed to lure a person in like a spell. The sound of running water came from the bathroom. Its steady patter only made the living room feel even quieter. You hooked a fingers under your collar and tugged it open a little. Then you picked up the lighter from the table. The moment the flame lit, it traced the sharp lines of your refined features. You leaned back on the sofa with your head tilted up. A plume of smoke spilled from your lips. For some reason, something came to mind, and you accidentally inhaled a mouthful of smoke. You started coughing hard at once. Your throat felt dry as sand. You glanced down below and cursed under your breath. You turned on the TV and flipped to some noisy channel at random. That barely managed to cover the sounds coming from the bathroom. Mikai showered quickly, including drying her hair before coming out. It only took about 30 minutes. "I am done." The moment she stood in front of you, the first thing you saw was her pale, slender calves. Your gaze moved upward. Once it landed on her, you could not look away at all. She usually walked with her head down, buried in exam papers. Her heavy bangs covered half her face. Even her profile was hidden by the long hair that hung down. Her hair still was not fully dry. Her half-damp hair and bangs had been pushed to both sides of her face. The face she revealed really was a budding beauty, not fully grown into herself yet, and that was before you even counted the body wash scent she shared with you. It gave you a strange feeling, as if she belonged to you. Seeing you stare straight at her, Mikai grew a little uncomfortable. You quickly grabbed the pillow and draped it over your bare legs. You looked calm, but your voice had gone hoarse. "Tell me when you are done." She scratched at her hair, then remembered something. She took the meal card out of her pocket. "This is your meal card. I forgot to give it back earlier." You showed no intention of reaching for it. Mikai still had her hand frozen there. "Why are you not taking it?" "I was thinking." You took the cigarette from your mouth and held it between the fingers of your right hand. You also turned off the TV. Having someone around who can clean seems pretty good too. That way, someone else can buy groceries, get meals, and cook. I would not even have to sweep the floor. I guess I would not be losing out. At that, delight filled Mikai's eyes. Even she herself seemed to come alive. So that means you agreed. You hooked a lazy grin across your mouth. Why are you so excited? Your fingertips tapped the pillow. I was not finished yet. That little head sank again. You curved your lips, then calmly forced it back down. I said it before. There has to be a sweetener. I will protect you. You do the housework for me, and that is a fair exchange. That does not count as the sweetener. Think carefully about how you can make me happy. Mikai pressed her lips together. She could not think of anything. The most valuable thing she had on her was an old second-hand phone. You definitely would not want that. Mikai really had nothing else worth offering. But she did not want to give up. So she quietly turned her back. Out of the corner of your eye, you glanced over. You had no idea what she was poking at on her phone. Time ticked by second. Have you decided yet? From behind, she caught the impatience in your voice. Mikai hurriedly put her phone away, her voice barely above a whisper. I have not decided yet. You let out an angry laugh. So you were asking Baidu all this time? You held out your hand to her. Let me see what you searched. Mikai hesitated and would not hand it over. Her face heated slightly. Seeing that she still would not say anything, you said, what are you pretending to be deaf for? Or does your phone have something you do not want people to see? Mikai stammered. There is nothing shameful. Then it must be something you want to keep hidden. Her voice was so weak it was almost inaudible. And that was not guilt. You narrowed your eyes without meaning to. Then you were definitely talking bad about me behind my back. Before I get angry, put the phone in my hand properly. Otherwise, Mikai had seen him beat people up before. She jolted. She took her phone out of her pocket and placed it carefully in his palm. That is more like it. You snorted. You lowered your head and unlocked her phone. It had a password. You looked at Mikai. Mikai obediently said, for 115. You unlocked it to your satisfaction. The screen was still on the search page she had not closed in time. Seeing the search entry, you gave Mikai a complicated look. Mikai lowered her head even further. How to make a boy happy, and let her figure it out herself. Yet she had carelessly asked Baidu instead. You held back from teasing her. Your slender fingers scrolled down. The answers were all over the place. The top 3 were, do little things for him, like cooking him a meal, washing his clothes, or taking a walk with him. That one was literally her job description. Clearly, that was ruled out. Give him gifts and surprises, like things he likes. You do not lack anything, and you are not interested in anything either. That one could be ruled out too. The last 3 were, give him a kiss, preferably a hot, burning kiss. Your fingertips paused on that line. Such a brilliant idea. And it was only listed 3rd. Out of the corner of your eye, you glanced at the girl with her head down, staring at her toes. Her ears red. Your mouth twitched almost imperceptibly. You idly toyed with her phone. The 3rd one. Would you even meet my teasing look? Mikai's heartbeat suddenly began racing. Did you not search for this yourself? That was advice other people gave. You should at least learn a little. Mikai's face turned bright red. Things online are not reliable anyway. Although her voice was so soft it was almost inaudible. The shyness in her voice, though, was plain as day. Looking at her like that, you could not help letting out a low laugh. Mikai held her breath, burying her head even deeper. You have not been in love before, have you? She answered in a soft, low voice. School does not allow dating. You gave her a look that was half smile, half not. Besides school rules, have you never had a crush on anyone? Is not that Beiyuan pretty close to you? He even keeps coming up to you to talk about math problems. I hear he is pretty popular with the girls too. He is decent enough. So, you do not have any feelings for him. At that, Mikai shook her head. I am not familiar with him. At the beginning, we did talk about math a few times. Later, after Yanlan started targeting me, I kept as much distance from Beiyuan as I could. Without realizing it, the corners of your mouth lifted. Then who are you close to? Your fingertips tapped the sofa. I mean an opposite-sex friend. Mikai thought about it carefully. She shook her head, aside from Wang King. Everyone else kept their distance because of Yanlan. They were all rather distant from her, let alone any boys. The only one she was close to. She looked at the boy in front of her, her lips twitching. So I am the only boy you keep company with. The next second after she nodded, she realized something was off. That wording was a little ambiguous. Mikai explained, her cheeks warming. I mean, you are the only boy willing to be friends with me. The boy seemed to catch the ambiguity too, and shifted to a different lounging position. the phone lazily turning in his hand. So, then, you really have no experience. What experience? She did not quite understand. You tapped her phone screen with your fingertip. All you do is talk nonsense. The girl's face went even redder. She wrung the corner of her clothes into a crumpled mess. After a few seconds of silence, she said softly, I can learn. I learn pretty quickly. That made you laugh. This is not like studying. The method for a math problem is right there. There is only one correct answer. After a few practice runs, you can figure out the pattern. But kissing is different. If you have no foundation, you are just feeling your way through it. Even someone talented may not be able to work out all the twists and turns, let alone a total newbie like you. You said it all with a straight face, sounding perfectly convincing. Mikai asked humbly. Then you must be very experienced? You almost choked on that. You cleared your throat, and even if it felt a little unnatural, you still kept that careless, worldly look. You said solemnly, theory comes from life. Life comes from practice. Otherwise, how would I understand it so well? After saying that, you naturally changed the subject. So, an invisible nobody like you still has a lot to learn from me. Of course, theory can never catch up to practice. In other words, I will always be your master. Her eyelashes fluttered twice. Then she suddenly moved a small step closer to you. You lowered your head to look at her phone, and did not notice. By the time the same shower gel scent from her body drifted over, you looked up slightly, and the next moment your pupils tightened. Her cheek was already at a distance of 20 centimeters from yours. Almost instantly, your back went rigid. A light kiss, with no hint of anything sensual, landed on your cheek. Her lips were unbelievably soft, carrying the faint, delicate scent of a young girl. It lasted only a second. It was more like a foreign cheek kiss greeting. Then Mikai straightened up, taking that step back. She stood 1 meter away from you, docile and obedient like a little cat, standing there anxiously. You sat frozen on the sofa, as if someone had struck a pressure point. You had completely forgotten how to react, and in that instant, your heartbeat betrayed you and skipped a beat. It was not until the cigarette between your fingers nearly burned your hand that you snapped back and crushed it out on the table. Mikai quietly opened her eyes a sliver to peek at you. You licked your lips. You were also turning to look at her. Was he really that fierce? Little Kai, what do you think you're doing? The sensation on your cheek still seemed to linger. A faint, tingling numbness ran through your limbs. Then it gathered somewhere low in your body. You could not help pressing the pillow in your lap, seeing her pretend she knew nothing in silence. Your voice shot up several decibels. Little Kai, are you trying to get yourself killed? See, I told you the internet was full of lies. Forget making someone happy. You looked like a raging dinosaur now. Mikai was nearly scared to death. She backed away several steps, and panic set in as well. Didn't you say theory comes from practice? You were instantly speechless. Meeting her eyes, you pressed your tongue against your lower teeth. Then you gave her a cold, dangerous look for a while. You tossed the pillow in your lap onto the floor, and slowly stood up. Seeing him keep walking closer, Mikai started to tense up. Just as she backed away, you grabbed her wrist, and yanked her over, tossed her onto the sofa. The sofa was soft. She bounced once when she fell onto it, and it did not hurt. Your hands braced on the backrest on either side of her face. One knee pressed against one side of her legs. Mikai, do you know how much of a provocation that was to a man? Her palms were covered in cold sweat. She was close to tears from fear. She regretted looking at all that messy stuff online more than anything. Sorry, I know I was wrong. I won't dare again. She had one especially good trait. She apologized fast about everything, whether it was her fault or not. You clenched your back teeth, as if holding back some unspeakable feeling. It was the first time you had ever been apologized to so miserably that you felt suffocated. That stupid girl. She was completely clueless, flirting without even knowing it. Then tell me what exactly you did wrong. Mikai sniffled. Her eyes were red. She opened her mouth. I shouldn't have kissed you without your permission. And then secretly looked at you. Not sure if she'd said it wrong. You gave a slight twist of the lips. Anything else? She thought hard. Her voice very weak. I was wrong to trust what the internet said. You fixed her with a hard stare for 2 seconds, your back teeth tightening. Mikai was confused for a long while, not knowing what else she had done wrong. That made you even more irritated. You straightened up, and kicked the trash can in anger. It rolled clattering across the floor. Mikai jolted up from the sofa, and kept her head down, not daring to make a sound. Little Kai, What was the first thing you said when you came to my place to find me? You remember, right? Of course she remembered. You didn't look at her. Say it again. Your expression darkened. Repeat that stupid deal you made. Mikai's shoulders trembled. Her fingers dug into the hem of her clothes, trembling with fear. I can cook. If I can't do something, I can learn. I can do all the dirty and tiring work. I'm a pretty good deal. Your voice was cold and hard. Anything else? She opened her mouth, hesitating. As long as you help me get through these 3 months until Gaokao, and keep Yan Lan and the others from bullying me. When I come of age. What I originally said was, when I turn 18, I can help you with your physical needs. But now she could not bring herself to say it. When I come of age, and after Gaokao, I will never cling to you. You casually tossed her phone onto the table, making a soft sound. Mikai fell silent, seeing you turn sideways, your whole body radiating danger, staring at her. What do those 2 words mean? Mikai felt increasingly uneasy under your stare. Her heartbeat sped up uncontrollably. Speak. Your tall frame stood in front of her. You lifted Mikai's chin. Weren't you pretty straightforward about it back then? Now I ask you to repeat it, and you can't do it. Mikai felt as if an arrow had suddenly pierced her chest. Those words were clearly hers. Now hearing them repeated through your mouth, it felt like countless slaps across her face, burning hot with pain. She endured the discomfort and drew in a breath. It was just that when I turn 18, I can help you with your physical needs. I can do anything. Your fingers on her chin tightened slightly, and you smiled wickedly. Nothing like the focused look you had when applying medicine to her hand. Not at all the same expression. That little sweetener just now, honestly, did not have much flavor. Do you know how to French kiss? How about we try one? Mikai's pupils widened little by little. When you held her jaw and leaned in, her hands reacted almost reflexively, desperately, pushing hard against your chest. You were shoved back so hard you staggered. Your back leg slammed hard into the coffee table, and a slight pain shot through it. Terrified, Mikai shrank back into the corner. Tears burst from her eyes at once. Droplets kept falling one after another. After you steadied yourself, seeing her tears fall like they cost nothing, your Adam's apple bobbed once, and you finally forced down the suffocating feeling. That's all the nerve you have. And you still kept saying you could do anything. Mikai bit her lip until it went white, and it made your throat tighten for no clear reason. Just a little scare, and you start crying like this. I don't know where you found the nerve to kiss me just now. You picked up a tissue from the table and tossed it to her feet. Then you returned to your usual lazy, unruly demeanor, slouching back into the sofa. You said, "Stop crying. I wasn't trying to bully you, just teaching you a lesson. So, you'd know how dangerous people can be." Mikai sniffled. Still wary, she looked up at you, meeting your gaze. She quickly lowered her head again. As a girl, do you know what matters most? Tears still clung to Mikai's lashes. She sniffled twice. You said slowly, "The most important thing is protecting yourself. Even if you do not have the ability to protect yourself right now, you should not casually trust a boy you've only known for a short time. There are many ways to solve a problem, and you picked the dumbest one. If I had really bullied you just now, what would you have done? Would you even have a chance to fight back? Could you have gotten away?" Mikai lowered her head. Clearly, she had been thoroughly frightened by you. Her lips trembled slightly, and she could not speak. You really owed her one. You straightened up on the sofa, and just as you walked over, the little girl shrank back in fear. Helpless, you bent down and picked up the tissue box from the floor. You pulled out the tissues with your fingertips, and roughly wiped away the annoying tears on her face. Do not casually make that kind of offer to a man. And do not just go kissing other people either. Do you understand? Mikai opened her eyes wider. Her taut nerves gradually loosened. Then she heard you ask, unhurriedly, "You did not do this to any other boy, did you?" She was still dazed. You bent your finger and tapped her forehead. "I'm asking you a question. Have you kissed anyone else?" Mikai quickly shook her head. This was the first time, and she was nearly scared to death. She would never do it again. You had no idea what she was thinking inside. Hearing that answer, you let out a barely perceptible breath of relief. But you hid your expression well. You still deadpanned a jab at her. Smart of you. Once the tears were wiped away, she was once again that well-behaved, quiet little girl. "Stop crying. I did not really bully you. If I really bullied you, that would be a problem. I would have to castrate myself." Mikai rubbed her reddened eyes. She said each word slowly and clearly. "You are a good person. You are different from all the other boys and girls. You look bad, but you are actually very kind. You do not bully her, and you even teach her not to trust other people casually." You gave an abrupt laugh. The expression you wore was roguish and reckless. "Who asked you to give me the good guy card? But you are a good person." Mikai was adamant. "You are one of the top 10 good people I have ever met." Your eyes lowered slightly at the corners. "Well, then, you are secretly ranking people in your head too." It was actually the first time anyone had called you a good person. It felt a little strange. "You have not seen my bad side. Where do I rank on your bad guy list?" She was very firm. "You did not bully me just now. You are a good person." You were instantly speechless. You really had wanted to do it, but you held back. Mikai said seriously, "Even though you just scared me, I still think coming to you yesterday was not a wrong choice." Hearing that, your feelings were rather complicated. It was like she was praising a Tangyuan for being white and round, when you knew full well the filling inside was dark. That is not necessarily true. You reached out and ruffled her hair. Who can say what will happen in the future? You bent down and picked up the coat from the sofa, then slung it lazily over your shoulder. You also picked up her phone from the table and gave it a shake. "Back to school." Mikai did not understand the meaning of what you had just said, so she did not dwell on it. She nodded. She straightened the trash can that had been kicked askew, then went to the restroom to get the clothes she had changed out of. When you saw that, you said, "If you take it back to the dorm, you will still have to wash it by hand. Just throw it in the washing machine. You are coming back after evening self-study to cook anyway. You can hang it up to dry later." Mikai thought that made sense. Her hand could not wash clothes for now. She could cook here, then take the washed clothes back to the dorm to dry. The timing would work out perfectly. She did not refuse your kindness. She put the clothes into the washing machine. But behind your back, she secretly took out her underwear and stuffed it into her pocket. Out of the corner of your eye, you had already caught a glimpse of it. Her sneaky behavior was honestly hilarious. You did not call her out. After leaving the apartment, the lunch break bell had just rung at school. That meant there was still half an hour before class. Neither of them had eaten anything. You took her into a restaurant and ordered a few dishes. Mikai took out her steamed bun and started gnawing on it, not touching her chopsticks. A stuffiness she could not name weighed on her chest. "You can just eat that. And this pack of pickles." She took it out of her pocket. You leaned back in your chair and did not urge her to start eating. You asked casually, "Do you still have a part-time job?" She nodded. "I work 1 hour at the milk tea shop after evening self-study. But don't worry, it will not keep me from making your dinner." You took that in silently. You picked up a piece of braised fish with your chopsticks and put it in your mouth. Before long, you threw the chopsticks onto the table. You spat the fish out too. "What the hell is this? It tastes awful." You did not have much appetite. You glanced at her. "Why don't you eat it?" Mikai looked at the table full of dishes. This was the best restaurant near the school. It cost over 500 yuan per person. Supposedly, it was some internet-famous restaurant. It should not taste bad. She shook her head. "I will just eat the bun. Then I will have them box it up. Anyway, once these dishes are packed up, they end up in the trash." You slowly stood up. Mikai said regretfully, "I really cannot bear to." "Then let's get them packed up." You glanced at her. "You mean you are still working tonight, and then you want me to eat these leftovers?" Mikai shook her head at once. She was very motivated to survive. It is just wasteful to throw it away like this. One meal here cost more than 2 months of her living expenses. Then you eat it, and it will not be wasteful. You handed her a pair of chopsticks. "Count it as helping me save money." Mikai hesitated and did not take them. But the table full of food made her swallow hard in a very unconvincing way. Only when you forcibly shoved the chopsticks into her hand did she finally take them. "I told you to eat. Stop dawdling. Careful, or I will change my mind and stop backing you up. And let that Yan Lam bully you." Mikai immediately gripped the chopsticks properly, and then picked up a bite of sweet and sour fish. Her eyes lit up instantly. One arm rested on the back of the chair, and you idly toyed with your lighter. Seeing her satisfied little expression, she was like a little hamster. "Is it good?" Mikai nodded hard, then carefully picked up a piece of crystal pork aspic and placed it on your plate. "Your stomach's been acting up, and you have a full afternoon of classes. You cannot skip eating. Try this. It is really good." You glanced at the meat, and your expression was picky as hell. Clearly, you were not very interested. How good could it possibly be? Mikai thought for a moment. The lean meat is crisp and fragrant, and the fat is not greasy. One bite in. The juices burst all over your teeth. It is like eating a meatball that burst with juice. As she said that, she used serving chopsticks to carefully remove the fat. You only eat the lean meat. It will not be greasy. Half believing, half doubting, you tried the meat. You immediately frowned. Not greasy at all. It tastes awful. But when you saw Mikai eating with such relish, looking utterly happy, you subconsciously kept chewing. It did not seem so bad after all. She asked you carefully, her eyes bright. Is it to your taste? You gave a reluctant It's passable. Then you pointed at the sweet and sour fish with your chopsticks. Mikai immediately understood what you meant. She used serving chopsticks to pick up a piece of fish and place it on the plate first, then slowly picked out every bone. Only the fresh, white fish meat remained. She used a spoon to drizzle some sweet and sour sauce over it, before sliding it in front of you. No bones now. You took one look. This new little underling has some sense. You frowned and swallowed the fish. The taste was average, but seeing Mikai eat as if she were feasting on rare delicacies, utterly satisfied, would somehow make a person's appetite better. Next, you only ate the dishes Mikai had carefully picked out for you, just so you would eat a little more. Mikai was practically stuffing herself. You drank the tofu soup she brought over, and asked casually, "What is the name of the shop where you work part-time?" Mixu Bing Cheng. After saying that, she looked at you in confusion. Your expression was a little awkward. What? I can't even buy milk tea. Mikai tucked a few loose strands of hair behind her ear. Their milk tea is a really good deal, but you do not need to buy it. The owner there is really nice. Every time I finish my shift, the owner gives me some of the pearls left over from the day, or milk, or fruit, and things like that. I can bring you one. That would save a little money. That made her incredibly happy. You clicked your tongue. You are pretty good at making do. Mikai smiled with her lips pressed together. Then what flavor do you like? I can make any flavor. She sounded rather proud. You actually did not like those cloyingly sweet drinks very much. But once the words were out, you spun the lighter between your fingers. Make whatever you want. Mikai nodded. There were only 15 minutes left until lunch break was over. At the 10-minute break between classes, and they only had 25 minutes left to eat. Mikai wanted you to eat more, so she painstakingly picked the bones out of the fish. That took quite a bit of time. In the end, you only took 2 bites before stopping. You were incredibly picky, and neither of you wanted to waste the full table of dishes. So Mikai lowered her head and ate hard. A faint smile curved your lips. You poured a cup of warm water and pushed it to her side. Eat slowly. No one is stealing it from you. Her cheeks were puffed out. I was afraid I would not finish it and waste it. You could not help teasing her. Then if you stuff yourself too much and end up in the hospital again, would that not waste even more medical resources? Looking at her rounded belly, her uniform was almost stretched tight. It was weirdly cute. Mikai thought that made sense too. She really could not eat anymore. She looked reluctantly at the food on the table. Then she looked at you with deep gratitude. Thank you for treating me to this meal. Once I make money later, I will treat you to a big feast too. Do not flatter yourself. I did not invite you to dinner. I just did not want to waste food and get cursed by heaven. Come to think of it, you did help me out. You folded your arms across your chest. Since you helped me, I will grudgingly give you a reward. What do you want? Mikai thought for a moment. She reached into her pocket for her phone. She did not want any reward. She just wanted your WeChat or your number. That way, if you ever needed to tell her to do something in the future, it would be easy to reach her. Before she could figure out how to ask, suddenly a tall, pretty girl walked shyly up to you with her phone in hand. Handsome boy, can I add you on WeChat? Can we be friends? Besides Qingyuan High School, the street also had another school, Beiyuan High School. The girl was wearing Beiyuan's uniform. Without even looking up, you said, "Sorry, I do not use WeChat." Then your phone number? A phone number is fine too. Sorry, I do not have a phone. Mikai could not help glancing at you. You clearly had a phone. The girl could clearly tell you were brushing her off and turning her down. She gave an awkward smile. Then she left. You raised a hand, called for the server, and took out your phone to pay. The girl saw it from a distance. Mikai secretly watched her expression. She did not even need to guess what the girl was thinking. It must have felt pretty awful. After walking out of the restaurant, you strolled ahead at an unhurried pace, and your voice was just as leisurely when you spoke to her. Have you thought it through? What do you want? Mikai quietly gave up the idea of asking him for WeChat. She shook her head. I do not want anything. You glanced at her from the side. Do not be polite with me. I usually look after my underlings. You are not special. I do not want people saying I am stingy, or that I treat my own underlings badly. That would make me look bad. I really do not want anything. As long as Lin Mo could help her, she was already deeply grateful. The lunch break bell rang over there. You did not press her any further. You just said, fine. Then you shoved your hands into your pockets and kept walking. Mikai followed behind you like a little shadow. She really did look like your little underling. Just after she returned to her seat, Wang Qing said to her angrily that Liu Yingying went to their classes. Homeroom teacher and filed the false complaint first. Our homeroom teacher is even more infuriating. She did not ask anything. She just told you to come to the office as soon as you got back. Why did not I go with you? We can make the whole thing clear. Liu Yingying can forget about smearing you. The homeroom teacher told me to go to the office. Mikai was not surprised. It was not the first time. You do not need to go. I can go by myself. She got up and headed for the back door. You stretched out your long leg, blocking her way. Stay put. I will handle the homeroom teacher. You casually tossed the cup on the desk to her. The water is cold. Go get some hot water. Mikai caught the cup steadily. Seeing you heading out, she hurried after you for 2 steps, only for your sit-along glance to send her back with a flat look. Stay put. Take one more step and see what happens. She knew you were only trying to scare her on purpose, but Mikai was still a little afraid of you, so she stopped moving. She obediently went to get water. After Wang Qing saw her finish getting the water, she put the cup on your desk. She bumped Mikai's shoulder with her own. Her gaze slid meaningfully between the desks in front and behind her. Since when did you two get so familiar? At noon he helped you teach that Liu Yingying a lesson, and Liu Yingying was bullied until she cried her eyes out. She made a huge scene in the restaurant. Now he has gone to the office to talk about Liu Yingying, and you even helped him get water. That is some rapid progress. Did you know each other before? Mikai pulled out her textbook and all her test papers. We did not know each other before, but we know each other now. Wang Qing thought to herself, I think he looks pretty hard to mess with, but he does not seem like a bad person. Mikai nodded. He is a good person. Looking through the window toward the office, she felt worried again. What if Liu Yingying twisted the truth and started spouting nonsense? Lin Mo had a bad temper too. What if he did not explain it properly? The more she thought about it, the more worried she became. She could not focus on her test paper anymore. Mikai had just stood up, about to go to the office, when the biology teacher walked in. Mikai, where are you going? Go back to your seat and sit down. Pay attention in class. Wang Qing tugged at her clothes, signaling for her to talk after class. Outside, the cicadas kept chirring nonstop. Mikai had never been this distracted so many times in one day. Even when the biology teacher told her to stand up and answer a question, she still had no idea where the lesson had gotten to. It was Wang Qing who quietly reminded her. It was not until class ended, and the teacher had just left, that she ran from the classroom toward the office. You were just strolling out lazily from inside. Seeing her panting hard, you lazily tapped her forehead with a bent finger. I told you to stay put, and you still would not listen. Rebellious phase, is it? You are not even listening to your boss. Ever since you took her under your wing, you had already cast her as your underling. Mikai asked, worried and nervous. Did the homeroom teacher make things hard for you? Did she say anything? You had not even answered yet, when the office door was pushed open again. It was Liu Yingying. Her eyes were very red, as if she had just cried. The moment she saw Mikai, she let out a cold snort, furious and flustered. Mikai, we are not finished. You turned your head to look over at her, and Liu Yingying jerked. She turned and ran straight back to class 1. She looked a little afraid. Your hand landed on her head and turned her back around. What are you standing there for? Playing the door god. Mikai looked at you in surprise, then hesitantly looked toward the office. Did the homeroom teacher not say anything? With your hand stuffed in your pocket, you walked back toward the classroom without caring. That woman was picking on you. I was just handing out justice from above. What could she say? Mikai still did not quite believe it. Was that really the end of it? And yet until math class was over, the homeroom teacher never called her in to talk. Wang Qing and she both felt like the sun must have risen in the west. Wang Qing glanced at the boy in the back row wearing headphones and sleeping on his desk, and the two of them whispered to each other. Little Kai, how did the transfer student do that? That Liu Yingying is class 1's math class representative. Our homeroom teacher really likes her. She made such an ugly scene this time. And yet the homeroom teacher did not even side with her. Mikai did not really know either. After a whole day of class, during the 10-minute break between periods, most people were lying on their desks catching up on sleep. At that moment, the homeroom teacher tapped the desktop with an eraser, and everyone jumped in surprise. They could not help straightening up. The homeroom teacher looked toward the doorway and said, "Classmate Liu Yingying, come here for a moment." Liu Yingying from Class 1 appeared in Class 2, and the students below could not help whispering. Yanlan found it odd too. The homeroom teacher continued. Classmate Liu Yingying deliberately got food onto classmate Mikai's clothes in the cafeteria, so she was assigned a self-criticism letter and told to read it to classmate Mikai. Let this be a warning to everyone from now on. Gaokao is almost here. I hope everyone puts their mind on studying and stops wasting energy on anything else. Liu Yingying's lips were bitten pale, and under the different looks from everyone below, she walked up to the podium in humiliation. The thin sheet of paper was crumpled in her hand, and she could not read it out at all. She could not understand it. Why had bullying Mikai been fine before? But now it not only did not work, she had to write a self-criticism too. Yanlan slowly raised her hand, her face dark. That is not right. Liu Yingying seemed to see hope, and looked tearfully at her friend. The homeroom teacher forced out a stiff smile. Classmate Yanlan, what is not right? The surveillance footage is very clear. It was indeed Liu Yingying who dirtied Mikai's clothes. Of course, it is not right. Everyone knew Liu Yingying was Yanlan's friend. Making Liu Yingying read a self-criticism in public, and reading it to Mikai at that. Wasn't that slapping her in the face? Yanlan leaned back in her chair. She spoke lightly. Liu Yingying was at fault. Then Mikai did nothing wrong. Liu Yingying got dirty too. Why does Mikai not have to read a self-criticism? If you are going to punish someone, then Mikai should be punished too. Liu Yaoji and Fan Yubin chimed in as well. Exactly. Mikai should be punished too. Why should she get out of writing one? Mikai pressed her lips together. Her hand on the corner of her shirt slowly tightened. Seeing the argument flare up, homeroom teacher Sun Zuman was caught in a bind. Qingyuan High School had the highest college admission rate in the city. It never lacked excellent students. Mikai was a good student, but she did not have Yan Lan's family backing. Once these students finished Gaokao, they would just move on to different universities and be gone. She still had to keep teaching in Liangsheng, and Liu Yaoji's father had specifically stressed it, telling her to keep on good terms with Yan Lan. It would help his business. So, when Yan Lan targeted Mikai, Sun Zuman usually just turned a blind eye. You, who had been sleeping with headphones on, now slowly sat up. I never said I would not write one. Mikai turned to look at you as you stood up. Her lips tightened into a thin line. So, you lied to her. You were going to write a self-criticism, but you did not tell her. You lifted your chin, glancing past the few who were jeering. This Liu whatever splashed Mikai. So she writes the self-criticism. Then I splashed her. So I write one. Any problem? The students below fell silent as if this was all too normal. They all thought Mikai was in for bad luck again. But the very next second, a book landed squarely on Yan Lan's head. Yan Lan screamed. She slammed the desk and shot to her feet. Who did that? Your lazy voice drifted over. I did it. Are you sick? You are fucking insane. Fan Yubin and Liu Yaoji sprang up together. You lowered your gaze, spinning your pen at an unhurried pace. Sorry. My hand just can't help itself when it sees someone acting up. Why don't you go wait outside? The English teacher heard the noise and came in from outside, frowning. I let you write one problem, and you still managed to cause trouble. Wang King raised her hand. Yan Lan threw something at Mikai first. Lin Mo only threw something back at Yan Lan. Yan Lan shot Wang King a dark look. Wang King immediately lowered her head. Yan Lan, Lin Mo, both of you, get out here. The English teacher carried authority without even raising his voice. Then he looked at Mikai. This has nothing to do with you. Keep working on your problems. He also warned the other students that before class ended, besides Mikai, who was still writing, anyone who had not copied it properly would be sent outside to stand. The classroom fell silent. Only the scratch of writing remained. Even someone like Fan Yubin and Liu Yaoji, those troublemakers, did not dare make a move. They quietly sat back down. English teacher Gao King was not like Sun Zuman. He had been at this school longer than the principal. He had won the excellent teacher title for 30 years running. He was also the head of the high school English department. Every year, he took over the top senior graduating classes. Every class he taught always ranked first in English. After decades of teaching, His former students were everywhere. Some were already executives at publicly listed groups. Some had gone abroad for further study, and some had even entered government departments. Every new year, his grateful students would bring him gifts. Even the principal showed him extra respect. So Gao-King had real clout. With one sentence, nobody else dared make a fuss. Even if Yan-Lan felt humiliated, she still had to go out obediently. Mikai copied the problem on the blackboard, while anxiously looking out the window. You looked half asleep, listening half-heartedly to Gao-King's nagging, seeming to notice her gaze. Your slightly raised brows lifted a little more, meeting hers from afar. Mikai secretly made a gesture at you from the podium, curling her fingers, to signal that you should lower your head a little. A wise person knows when to back down. You understood what she meant, and clicked your tongue softly. She probably really did not realize how foolish she looked. She had not expected to catch Gao-King's attention. Following your gaze, Gao-King saw Mikai's little movement. At once he coldly ordered you and Yan-Lan to stand over by the stairwell, away from the windows. Mikai, focus on copying your problems. You are trying to do two things at once, and you are even copying the English words wrong. Scolded, Mikai quickly withdrew her gaze, embarrassed. She looked again and saw she really had gotten it wrong. She hurriedly wiped away the wrong letters and corrected them. He shut the classroom door behind him. Gao-King liked wearing a mouse suit. At that moment, with his hands behind his back, he walked to the stairwell. You too. Think it over properly. Every second of senior year is precious. If you do not study properly yourselves and spend class time messing around, while also affecting other people, do you know how bad that behavior is? You yawned, looking bored. Yan-Lan looked wronged. It is clearly Lin Mo bullying me. Look here. He even smashed me and left me hurt. Her forehead really was red from the book hitting it, but not enough to call it an injury. I want Lin Mo to apologize to me. Otherwise, call his parents over and have them apologize to me. She wanted to see what kind of family Lin Mo came from, and how he had managed to get in with the principal. Gao-King adjusted his glasses. You still want to call in his parents? Mikai was writing just fine up there. Why did you throw something at Mikai? You were the one in the wrong first. You should apologize. And you should apologize to Mikai first. As for Lin Mo, he glanced at you, indifferent as ever. I hear he's a transfer student. His goal is to go abroad. He is not taking Gaokao, so his grades do not count toward class test record anyway. Gao-King did not expect much from you, so he just said, it's wrong for him to bully a girl, but at most that counts as handling it badly. Next time, do not use your hands. Report it to a teacher. Got that? And this time you should also properly apologize to Yan-Lan. You said casually. Report it to a teacher. Then Mikai can throw it back at her. Gao-King frowned. Of course not. Yan-Lan was wrong to throw things at someone. She should apologize. Mikai was hit, so of course she had a right to be angry. But Mikai throwing it back was also wrong. Classmates should understand each other and get along. There are more ways to solve a problem than fighting. If everyone handled every small issue with their fist, then what use would rules be? What use would teachers be? Yan-Lan stamped her foot in anger. Want her to apologize to Mikai? Not a chance. You gave a small smile. Then what if the other side refuses to apologize? Gao-King also knew Yan-Lan came from money, and Sun Zuman had indulged her plenty. But in his classroom, even the principal could not interfere. Yan-Lan, you go apologize to Mikai. After you apologize, I will have Lin Mo apologize to you. Then this matter is settled. I am the one who got hurt. Mikai is not hurt at all. Why should I apologize? Yan-Lan suppressed the jealousy in her heart, and in no time, tears fell. Teacher Gao, you cannot favor her just because Mikai is the English class representative. From childhood until now, my parents have never hit me, but Lin Mo dared to hit me. I am going to tell the principal. I am going to tell my parents. Gao-King, a man in his 50s, was driven nearly insane by her yelling. His blood pressure was about to spike. A trace of irritation rose in you. You shot her a cold look. If you keep yapping, I'll stuff stones in your mouth. Teacher, look at him. He does not even look like he wants to apologize. And he is threatening me right in front of you. Yan-Lan jabbed a sharp finger at Lin Mo. I do not care. If Lin Mo and his parents do not apologize to me today, I will have the principal expel him. Qingyuan cannot keep a trash like him. Your eyes went cold in an instant. You reached out and grabbed the wrist she was pointing at you with, and bent her hand down hard. Yinlan immediately let out a pig-like shriek. This time she really cried from the pain. Gao King was startled for a moment too. He hurried over and held your arm down. Let go, now. No hitting classmates. You flung her hand away in disgust and wiped your own hand again and again with the tissue in your pocket. Yinlan's crying immediately drew the attention of the neighboring class. That class was in self-study. The first person out was Fang Yuan. By now, the students in Class 1 and Class 2 were no longer studying either. All the students leaned out the windows to look outside. Teacher Gao, what is going on? Fang Yuan walked over, glancing at Lin Mo and Yinlan out of the corner of his eye. Seeing Yinlan crying so hard she could not speak, Fang Yuan frowned. Before Gao King even opened his mouth, Yinlan, as if she had found a backer, sobbed and threw herself into his arms. Brother Fang Yuan, Lin Mo is bullying me. He hit my head with a book. Look at my forehead. It is all swollen. And my hand. He almost broke my hand. I was really scared to death. Fang Yuan took one look. And sure enough, her fingers were all red, with red marks on her forehead too. Their families were close. They had grown up together. Fang Yuan had treated Yinlan like his own little sister since childhood. At that moment, his usually composed face showed a hint of anger, and his sharp gaze locked onto Lin Mo, shielding her behind him. Ryan is a girl. What kind of skill is it to bully a girl? Yinlan wiped away her tears, hiding behind Fang Yuan, and lifted her brows at you in challenge. You leaned casually against the wall, as calm as ever. You lifted your eyes lazily. If you cannot even be bothered to use your brain, you might as well save it as an inheritance. Look closer. How does this even count as bullying?